and welcome to Cape Ann Today, live from Kory's Auditorium at Gloucester City Hall for live coverage of the 2021 Gloucester Municipal Election. I'm your host, Kory Curcuru, alongside my co-host, Heather Atwood. As always, how are you, Heather?
As always, I'm good. It's an exciting evening.
It's a big night, right? The culmination of a long spring and summer.
A long spring and summer, a long election season, if that's what you mean, and a really interesting one in many ways, and unprecedented.
Right, and we will be here until the lights go out, basically, with election results for everybody. We have lots of races going on, of course. The big race for mayor, incumbent Favazza taken versus Verga. At-large councilors happening. We're going to have potentially all new faces on at-large. At least 3 are outgoing. Of course, races in wards 2 and 3. And school committee as well. Now, I can tell you, we've heard from people so far throughout the day that turnout seemed basically light, throughout all 5 wards, which is interesting. Of course, now, though, is the time when things really pick up from the end of the business day up until polls closing at 8 p.m.
And we'll be talking about that, why it's light, if it is light, and what that says about the city and how they feel about these races, all that.
Right. So Heather, we are going to see, regardless, a lot of new faces serving Gloucester through our 400th anniversary in 2023.
Right, which is kind of interesting to see. But yes, a lot of very familiar faces did not choose to run again, which is really interesting. And yet, some people like Tony Gross and Jeff Worthley said, well, then I'm running, because they were concerned. They actually stated that they were concerned about a deficit in experience on city council.
Interesting, because that's why Bob Wynot chose to run as a write-in for Ward 3 after Adam Orlando withdrew a couple weeks ago. Also, Frank Marjota is vying for that Ward 3 spot as well, which is open. We'll have much more in the breakdown of that and why we think the results may be delayed a bit tonight. We're expecting to have numbers around 8:45 or so. We heard that from City Clerk Joanne Sinos not long ago. So we will see. We did this for the preliminary election on September 14th. Everything sort of came at us really fast. Now, of course, it was just the mayoral race with 6 candidates, but by 8:15, we kind of knew what was going on, and all the numbers came in one fell swoop.
And probably the question mark will be these write-ins. You know, if there are enough write-ins to, that they really need to be accounted for, if they can see that they're just like 20 or 30, that won't matter too much. But if there are a serious number of write-ins, they will require 30% of the vote count to win. That they will have to take that seriously.
Yeah, I mean,
they have to count them all. Excuse me, they have to count them all no matter what.
Right. So there are some interesting subplots tonight. Basically, with Adam Orlando bowing out of the Ward 3 race, we have 2 write-in candidates. Now, because of early voting, we know Adam Orlando already received some votes. So we'll explain what happens if he does actually win that Ward 3 race. And a similar story in school committee with the withdrawal of Melissa Texera Prince, who served 14 years, and she withdrew late as well. And so we already know she's received votes.
Well, their names are on the ballot.
Right.
Both Prince and Orlando's names are on the ballot. So if you haven't been paying attention and you walk in to vote, you may, in Ward 3, you may check Orlando, and for school committee, you could easily check Prince. And she has such a legacy, it would be easy to check her box.
Right. And it's going to be really fascinating tonight, of course. It's a coin toss between Favazza and Verga, so we'll see how that plays out. Of course, so those are the big headlines heading into tonight. Who will be the mayor of Gloucester? How many new faces will we see as city officials in 2022? And what I think is a giant story as well is the number of outgoing elected officials, and some really popular names there too.
And we're going to talk to them.
We are. So we're actually lucky enough we have 4 of the outgoing officials joining us tonight. Jonathan, you want to step on with us too, please? So first is outgoing president of the Gloucester School Committee, Jonathan Pope. And we're going to sort of get the ins and outs on why he's not running again. We want to talk about some accomplishments, what you're proud of, maybe advice for whoever is going to fill your shoes. So how are you, Jonathan?
I'm fine.
Yeah, that's great to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Yeah.
So I would like to start right off just to give a perspective on your 2-decade career as on the school committee in Gloucester, right?
Yes.
Yes?
More or less.
So I would just like to give the audience a perspective on what you had to manage. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to read from the Gloucester Times in 2007. Okay? This is a quote from the Gloucester Times in 2007.
The evening it began with School Committee Chairman Jonathan Pope presenting the preliminary budget of $35,146,302.
Million.
Million.
35 million, I always do that wrong. $35,146,302. Because the budget is 3.5 million less than the school department needs to maintain services, the school committee proposed closing Fuller School, the city's largest kindergarten through 5th grade, and cut 29 positions, 25 of which are at Fuller. What a time you had to manage,
Yeah,
right?
baptism by fire, Jonathan.
My wife was teaching there at the time.
Wow.
Just to make breakfast stories more interesting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was hard. That was very hard. The money in 2007, 2006, 2002, we the state cut our funding in the middle of the year. That whole decade was problematic with money, and you just do the best you can. I mean, it's not like you can do something to get more money. We went to the State House. We would go argue with the administration, but the city has limited resources, and they have a lot of things to pay for, and you can't run a good school if you don't have a good police department, and a good fire department, and a good administration. And so you can't just say, we need the money and nobody else does. So it was always hard, but being on the school committee, you have to advocate for, your clientele, which is the children.
right.
So
Well, and then you had, you built the West Parish School.
yeah,
You managed the consolidation of veterans and East Gloucester, and a global pandemic.
yeah.
So I'm going to ask one more time. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's been a hard year. I mean, this if you really want to go back, I was first elected in 1998. I was first term, and I really at that point we were dealing with the disaster that was the renovation of the Gloucester High School.
Right.
And that year, there were actually 4 new members elected to the school committee, and only 2 remaining members. And they included Al Sweckler, Mike Fahey, Margaret Wilmot, and myself were the new members, and Kim Norman and Peter Sarro were the incumbents. And the high school project was just
That was a nightmare.
was
yeah.
where I started, and we were still paying lawsuits off 10 years later from the mismanagement of that
Right.
project. And just now we just got the gymnasium, the field house straightened out.
That's amazing.
So it's there's been long ongoing projects. In 2002, we one of the things that I really people forget about is we implemented full-day kindergarten, which didn't, when I started, it was half-day kindergarten,
That's a revolutionary move right
and
there.
that was a big deal, and people were opposed to it, but. So we made it optional the first year, and by the end of the first year, we didn't have anybody opting out.
Oh, really?
I think that's how that goes
Yeah,
usually.
yeah. So there's been a lot of things through the years. Because I was elected in 1998, a century ago, and then I was off for 4 years, from 2008 till 2012.
Okay.
So the 20 years that I've been on is
You had a
over
break.
24.
Yeah.
20.
So when you look back at all these, I have to say, these times of struggle, what feels like the one that just was really hit hardest?
Well, the pandemic was, because it's most recent, so it's in your memory, and it was, it was a struggle because it wasn't clear what we should do, and it wasn't in any of our sort of background of information. We were being asked to make medical decisions. We had to read through a lot of, health information that really wasn't stuff that many of us were familiar with.
And you're implementing remote learning for the first time.
Implementing remote learning. I mean, when it first happened, it was too quick. I mean, that first year, I mean, when we just shut things down, it was, what do we do? Well, we're just going to shut things down and hope we open them up next week or 2 weeks. That was really the kind of the way it went. It was week to week, and then eventually we realized it was done. We were done for the year. Just trying to scramble to, but nobody knew what they were doing.
Well, we were trying to follow what you were, trying to keep up with what you were trying to manage, and I just remember the Chromebooks. Trying to, find Chromebooks for all these students and get them home and get them to be able to do something at home.
And that was just part of it, trying to get access, because a lot of kids, you can hand them a Chromebook, but if they don't have, Chromebooks are only good if you can get online.
Right.
And if they didn't have internet access at home, Comcast came through big and came up with a plan that was just like $10 a month for families to have internet access, which, but even that we talked about trying to get sort of work areas, in either churches or the YMCA or places like that where kids could go. The library was very good. There was a lot of things to manage. And being the chair of the school committee, you got to manage the school committee too, and they don't always march in the same direction.
So, Jonathan, why step away?
Well, I'm 73 years old. I got a few things I want to do that mean not being around for weeks on end. And, I want to travel a little in the winter and enjoy my boat a little bit more in the summer. And I feel like I've done what I can. I'm going to stay on, I hope to stay on as the chair of the building committee for the new school. So I'm not, riding off into the sunset.
Right. So we know we're going to have new school committee members come 2022. What advice do you give the newbies?
Well, the newbies the first thing they need to do is learn what the job is, because a lot of people come onto the school committee with a misconception of what the school committee actually does. And that being said, I haven't seen any of these people running actually at school committee meetings, so it's a little scary. Fortunately, the state requires that they take a course to become familiar with the laws and exactly what the powers are. And the other thing that I would suggest is that they learn to be a team, because a committee is a team and it is made up of individuals, but in the end they speak as a team, as a committee, and that's a hard lesson for people to learn, that once the committee makes a decision, even if you are not in favor of it, you're on that committee and you stand by that decision.
Well said. Well, Jonathan, we appreciate your service. I'm happy to call you a friend of mine, a longtime friend now.
That's right.
I'm glad you're going to help see the consolidation project through, and I'm happy that you're moving on and going to enjoy your life, but in different ways.
Yes.
Now, moving forward.
There are many things I'll miss about it, but there's some that I won't.
Well, thank you so much
Thanks
for all that
Jonathan.
hard work.
Okay, take care. Thanks again for your service. That is outgoing Gloucester School Committee President Jonathan Pope. That was great, Heather, as always. It's always nice to hear from him. Okay, let's speak with another outgoing member of the Gloucester School Committee. Joel Favazza is about to join us. Come on, Joel. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. You guys doing all right?
Yeah, we are.
Good.
Yeah.
Hi, Joel. Nice to meet you. I'm just meeting you now.
Oh, hello.
But thanks for coming and joining us.
Of course.
Really appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me.
So, Joel, do you want to get into your? It's been 8 years you served.
6.
6 years,
Yes,
right?
it's 6 actual, like roughly a decade and like experience from the 2020 COVID year, but 6 actual years.
How would you encapsulate those 6 years?
It was an ongoing learning process from the day we got there. The committee's evolved, I think, a lot over the last 6 years. I was actually kind of reflecting back, because you go like, did I get anything done, right? I've been working with these people, working on these issues. Have we actually moved the needle? And I was looking back at just kind of the evolution of the committee, how the committee functions, of the school district, the direction the district's heading in, and only upon reflection, stepping back at the end to see like, okay, there has been, some commendable progress, and there is, I think a optimistic future ahead for the district. But sometimes when you're buried in the weeds, it's hard to tell, whether or not, you're actually moving things forward or just kind of digging a hole,
Right, right.
So what are you, we've been talking about fresh faces, and that's kind of a euphemism for people who may be a little bit inexperienced going into these roles. So what do you think, for those people, what do you think it takes to make the school committee function well?
If people would just embrace the old cliche, there are no bad ideas in brainstorming, and just be open to a conversation of ideas, whether they be expected or unexpected, and then from there start narrowing down what's practicable, what's pragmatic, what's possible. But to start kind of, with let's just talk this out, let's just hear everyone's point of view. If they can continue adopting that kind of mentality, I think it makes everyone feel heard. It, and there might be one little nugget in an otherwise, unworkable idea that gets worked into the actually workable idea that really changes it for the better, right? So I think, I'm not super worried about experience. I think people need to do their work, do your reading before you come to the meeting. You get a big packet that's sent out in advance, make sure you've read it. Make sure if you don't understand things in it, you've made a note for yourself, and either if you can get a question out ahead of time to the superintendent, ask, hey, what's this all about, or be ready to ask it in the meeting. But otherwise, just keep an open mind, no bad ideas in brainstorming, just kind of talk out the issues and then start focusing in on what you can actually do with the issues. I think that's the key to success for the next slate.
Do you have a good example of that working well when you were on the school committee?
I want to say more recently, yes. I think through COVID actually, because COVID forced us to take, the playbook that every year had been like a little edit here and a little edit there, and then you push it back and throw it in the trash, right? So how you teach school is over. You have to learn and figure out how to teach school entirely different. And then, oh, by the way, throughout the year, one or two times, we're going to throw some major hiccups and make you, redo the whole thing again and then again, right? And so you couldn't go through that process just with this is how we've always done it mentality. It was, impossible to do so. So it forced the committee to really start going, okay, how do we do things in a new way? And like one of the best results has been the acceleration of bringing technology into both the district, which was already, doing a great job with the Chromebook initiative, but even like our meetings, we've had school committee meetings that the amount of attendees would not have fit in the largest auditorium on Cape Ann. We couldn't have found a physical place to put all the people that have been attending some of our meetings. And we've chosen as a committee to continue that, right? So although we're meeting in person now as a committee, all of the meetings get broadcast in real time so that people from home, especially a lot of parents can't make it to our meetings in person, but they love to see them, right? And so just little things like that where, we had to explore how the heck do we have a meeting now that we're in this pandemic situation? Oh, well, here's some technologies we can use. And then again, we've preserved the beneficial parts of that while returning again to in-person interaction, which we find to be beneficial in getting an efficiently run meeting off the ground,
Yeah, and so Joel, it always seems like the school committee is dealing with turbulence of one sort or another, right? It's Sapphire to Lummis, it's the school consolidation, the raises are a big question right now. What's it like navigating through that? Can you just tell the folks out there? I mean, because I just don't think the school committee gets enough credit for having to deal with all of this stuff. It's
and
a lot.
Budgets. The budget's a big deal,
It's just
right?
very rarely is it smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Sure. So I think some of it is avoidable, some of it is unavoidable, right? And it's the city as a whole, the school committee is just an example of the city as a whole, the need to plan ahead, plan long-term, and have kind of a long-term vision to avoid things being, put up to a deadline, which then, increases emotion, increases stress, increases animosity. So I think some of it is avoidable. Other things aren't. Again, things pop up, things crop up that you cannot predict, and you have to kind of deal with, right? So how's it been navigating that stuff? I mean, it's been difficult, right? Part of it is part of the job. I think some of it, again, is avoidable. A lot of these, there was a big push. I have to commend the committee including outgoing member Melissa Texera-Prince. She's on a lot of the negotiating teams, and she's been pushing really hard to make sure that we are settling long-term contracts so that we are not every single year picking the scab and having to negotiate with every group, because both groups get, beat each other up a little bit in these. Even under the most, collegial of times, there's still a little bit of, it's a negotiation against each other, right? And that's not how you want to be every year in opposition to, your staff, who you otherwise really appreciate and really want to support and give them, all the help you can give them, right? And so Melissa was really instrumental in making sure that we're settling 3-year contracts whenever possible so that the dust can settle, some wounds can heal, and we can focus on educating the district in between having to get back into the negotiating room and kind of, putting the gloves back on.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, but your departure is also a big loss for the school committee too. So what brought
That's
you?
what I've been telling everybody.
Well, what brought you to the decision to step away finally?
I am running an expanding business. I have 4 kids, 6 and under.
Oh my gosh.
And again, this
Say no more.
It's another pandemic in and of itself.
Right, and this pandemic year, I said, was a dozen years in itself. We always joke, the school committee gets like a $5,000 stipend for our work, and we always joke on a good year it's about $1.25 an hour. And this pandemic year was about 17 cents an hour, right? And so it's just, that my career and my marriage is intact after this is a miracle. I don't want to chance it again. I'm going to go focus on some other things.
Right.
I also feel like I feel okay stepping away. I'm super excited about Superintendent Lummis. I think he was a great pick for the district. I was so happy, and he's proven himself thus far to be, all that we thought he'd be and more. The committee members who are staying on, I think, are a great blend of some legacy and some newer members. And so just, I feel optimistic. As I was looking back, I said, when I got into this committee, we were quagmired in how the heck are we going to maintain, 5 outdated elementary schools we can't afford. And by 2017, the committee had agreed to go down to 3, right? Consolidate East Gloucester Vets, consolidate Beaman Plum Cove, that sort of thing. When I got on the committee talking about regionalization with Rockport was like a 3rd rail. You're out of your mind. Don't even bring it up, right? At the last debate the school committee had,
I heard that.
all but one candidate supported, the exploration, and one candidate even went as far as saying the regionalization is inevitable, just based on the population trends and the school-age population trends. And that's a huge, paradigm shift that so I just feel so much more optimistic about the direction the district's heading, compared to where it was when I first felt the call to come, get involved.
Right.
We're hoping to speak to some of the members who will be elected today on the school committee. And I was definitely going to ask about that, because I was surprised to hear that in that school committee forum, that they're actually considering it. So
Yeah, I mean, a study was commissioned before the pandemic hit, just to
The
start
case
looking
study,
at,
right?
to look at efficiencies, right? Just so where there isn't efficiencies, it wasn't about how do we, snap your fingers and regionalize, but it was like, where are there efficiencies now? We can start working as a team,
Right.
I mean, it took Manchester Essex a decade. From when they said, okay, we think we want to do this, to when they actually said, okay, we're a regional district. It took them a full decade, right? And so, and they didn't have a pandemic sitting in the beginning stages of their decade they used it for.
All right.
Yeah.
So, but I think, I was so pleasantly surprised to hear everybody, or almost everybody, was, looking into that, or willing to explore. And if the answer is this is not right, then that's fine too. But again, back to no bad ideas and brainstorm. You got to look at it. And you got to look at it with some seriousness and with an open mind. And if it says, yeah, this is actually how these 2 communities can really, find some efficiency, save some money, and provide a superior education, then great. And if it says, oh, you know what? It's not actually going to do any good for anybody because of X, Y, and Z. Well, at least you can say you tried. You at least looked at it, and didn't just write something off because it might be hard or might be not what we've always done, right? So I was, again, whether the answer is that or not, the fact that it'll be explored to me just shows that this district and this community, again, is keeping an open mind to exploring the best potential outcome for the students.
Well said. And lastly, Joel, advice for the newcomers. There's going to be a lot of new faces on the committee next year.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So again,
Do their homework.
yeah, my advice, read the
Yeah.
packet, make sure you understand.
Yeah.
Because if you can spend time in the meeting actually discussing the merits of the issue rather than being educated on the issue itself, you can have a much more productive meeting. So just do your homework, stay involved, and make sure you understand what it is you're going to be dealing with at the meeting by the time you get there, and you'll have a much more productive meeting. And to the new people who are coming on board, just because you're new does not mean you're any less qualified than anybody else on that committee. if you are a hard worker and you're a critical thinker, you will be fine. And just because you might not have Robert's Rules of Procedure memorized, or you might not have been doing this forever, does not make you any less valid or any less, necessary on that committee.
Nicely put. Well, Joel Favazza, we thank you for your service. It was a great run, and we appreciate you joining us and spending some time here tonight on election night. It's a big night for the city, and we can't thank you enough for chatting with us for a little bit.
Yeah, no, thank you to you both, and thank you to everyone who's running, because I'm not.
And good luck with those kids.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. That is Joel Favazza. He is an outgoing member of the Gloucester School Committee, and there's going to be a half of that committee is going to be brand new.
Brand new.
Come 2022.
I was so interested to hear that the state actually requires them to take a course. That's the first I've heard of that, and that's very interesting. And if I were running for school committee, I would want that. So.
Yeah. Well, the hits keep coming, folks. We have another outgoing member. This is departing Ward 3 City Councilor and Council President Steve Leblanc. Come on over, Steve. How are you, bud?
Very good.
And Steve has spent, get this, folks, 10 years as the Ward 3 councilor. And Steve?
Now there's chaos in that ward, and it's all because you cannot be replaced.
What have you done?
You can't be replaced.
I am very blessed with Ward 3. Ward 3 is a tremendous ward, blue collar. I represent a lot of people like me in my ward. They're doers. They just get things done. But I've helped navigate a lot of things for them to get things done in the ward. But I've been blessed. I've grown up in Ward 3 just about my whole life. I think I've lived out of Ward 3 for like a minute. So very blessed.
So Frank Margiato, who is running as a write-in,
Yes.
already mentioned that you are sort of a role model for him as he tries to move into a leadership position. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel as it?
I've had several conversations with Frank. So first, his wife called me last week. Said, my husband wants to do this. I know the family. I know Gus. I know, most of them. I don't think I've ever met Frank till today. We've had several conversations, and I kept telling Frank, you worry about getting elected. After you get elected, I will mentor the crap out of you, buddy. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. I'll show you. Because I remember I came in as green as could be. Never been to a city council meeting. I remember when I first came in, it was different circumstances. We had my ward councilor at the time come to my neighborhood, didn't do a damn thing for us. And I says, you know what, bud, I'm coming after you. And I ended up beating him. Here I am 10 years later, but I didn't know a thing. Here I am, city council president, running the show from my kitchen table now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But Frank will do well if he gets in. Whoever gets in, I'll make sure that they're up and running and up to speed
Right.
from day one.
Because you must have crossed paths with Bob. Why not?
I know
over
Bob
the
very
years.
well.
Right.
Bob taught me a lot.
Yeah. I was going to ask what propelled you to run in the beginning, but you answered that. So I guess now looking back at the 10 years, what are you proud of? What are you proudest of? I mean, like you said, you pretty much served where you grew up. That's going to be a great feeling.
Yeah, that's one of them. Served where I grew up. Knowing when somebody calls me and they say, hey, my name is so-and-so, I live on the corner of whatever street, I know exactly where you live. Yellow house with green shutters. Yeah, yeah, that's my house. I'm like, I know where you live. And you go into that. Like I said, being in the ward, driving around, taking the kids, for 10 years, it's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
I had a post out at the beginning of the year. I've been through 2 mayors, 4 police chiefs, 3 fire chiefs, 5, 6, 7 CAOs, and I went down the line of all these people that have come and gone, and here I am still sitting. It's like, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, things happen fast
So,
around
but
here.
you are hard to replace because there was only one candidate, Adam Orlando, stepped up
Yeah.
to run, and he was unopposed. And then, unfortunately, his employer said, "We don't like that idea," which made sense, I
Right.
guess. And now there are these 2 write-ins. So, what do you think about that? That it's hard to fill your seat, your seat.
Big shoes to fill, Steve.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. It is.
Is it that, or is it something else happening in the community?
It's a hard position to fill regardless of what ward it is or at large. Nowadays with social media, especially Facebook being out there, you get beat up a lot. You get a lot of wrong information put out there. So it's kind of negative on that side. I shut the Facebook posts off. I shut everything. I just do what I'm focused to do. There's a lot of times where somebody will reach out to me via Facebook. I'll send them a private message. Here's my cell number. I'm not going to go into things on social media. Give me a call. We'll talk. And we have a very civil, educated discussion rather than going back. Because, I mean, you can read something online in your head differently.
There's no context.
Than the way I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
So I think social media has put a damper on a lot of people, especially the young people trying to come out. And I was 40, now I'm 50, so it's 10 years I've been on the council. I don't want to say I was young at 40. I'm definitely not old at 50, but I think that puts a damper on things. People, you being put out there a lot more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, Tony Gross mentioned the disinformation that circulates in the city on Facebook, that he said it's not just a national problem, it's a local problem.
Right.
So do you have any ideas about what to do about that? How to, you know,
Personally, just don't pay attention to it.
yeah.
Scroll past it. Reach out to people through Messenger or give them a text and talk to people in real life rather than going back. You know, Melissa Texera, I can remember last year she had a post out there and she had 600 comments, and I'm like, I don't have, you know, I got kids, I've got a family, I've got grandkids, I've got my job, I'm a self-employed. It's like I don't have I
Time.
can't do 600 comments back
Right.
and forth, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So you just reach out to the people and you explain things, and it helps a lot.
Yeah.
And we understand you do neighborhood forums.
I started that. It's the
Yeah.
best thing. You get people. A couple of times I've come up here, had a ward meeting, 3 people have showed up. One being me, one being the city clerk, and one being maybe a city manager or something like that.
We know the feeling, Steve.
So what I've done, and I've kind of perfected it, is I'll go through, print a bunch of flyers up, take a piece of Scotch tape, go to your door, tape it on the door. We're meeting in front of number 25, so-and-so road at Saturday at 2 o'clock. Everybody comes out, they meet, then they can go home if they want, or they can stick around and they can linger. But it's a neighborhood issue, and we deal with it with the neighborhood. You get a better outcome from
Yeah.
that. There's been a time where I've brought tables and pop-ups, the easy-ups, for people to hang around, and so it's gone well.
Very cool.
Great idea.
Yeah. So lastly, Steve, do you have a message for your constituents in Ward 3 as you step away? And, you know, are you away for good?
For now, I
Yeah,
gotta
for
take
now.
a break. I have to take a break for a
Yep.
little while. It'll be up to my wife the next time around. The going out, you know, and I'm a giver. I don't mind. That's what I'm born and bred to do. Born and raised to do. But going out, having a drink with my wife, going out with my buddies, going to the market, it's just, I'm going to get some butter. I come back 20 minutes later, my wife's, where the hell have you been? But it's been an honor to serve for my constituents in Ward 3. I want to thank my wife and my kids for putting up with it. I can remember my daughter being, oh, whatever, Dad. And then one day she called me. She's like, listen, I have a friend that has something on her street. I told you could do this. And I was like, see, Brianna? First you were like, big deal. My
Yeah.
dad's whatever. And now she's, you know, shaking and moving things for me. But it's been an honor to work with everybody, you know, because, I mean, obviously, look, I'm just a regular schmo, you know, and that's what I pride myself on when I show up, you know.
Well,
yeah,
come
Steve-
back as a schmo.
Yeah.
Do some more.
Yeah,
Do
anytime.
some more schmo work.
I gotta wait a few years.
Yeah.
We appreciate your service, of course, and I'm sure I'll see you sooner than later, probably clinking glasses somewhere.
Exactly.
But thanks again for your time, and again, thanks for your service, and
My
we appreciate
pleasure.
you spending some time with us.
I wish everybody a good luck tonight, and hopefully everybody turns out what they want, you know?
Yeah, if you have something to say, find Steve on Facebook. He loves that. Yeah.
I'll make sure I get right back to you.
Right,
Thank
yeah.
you, Steve.
That is departing Ward 3 City Councilor and Council President Steve Leblanc, 10 years as a Ward 3 Councilor, so we tip our hats to him, which is great. And of course, we have to speak now with an
We have
outgoing
the
at-large
honor.
councilor.
We have the
We
honor
do.
of speaking now.
We do. Come on in, John. Yeah, this is former Gloucester Police Chief and the outgoing at-large Councilor John McCarthy. How are you, John?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks
Great.
so much for coming out. It's so great that all you guys who are, think you didn't have to come to City Hall on an election night ever again, or maybe
I
for a
know,
while.
you know, it's It's been weird. It really has. You know, we only had a few meetings in the beginning, and then
Right.
ever since then, it's been Hollywood Squares, I guess.
Yeah.
So you were 39 years in the police department and 2 years as on the city council.
Yes.
So
Are those parallel lifespans, you think?
Well, you know, when I left the police department, I had been involved in a lot. I wanted to stay involved, and so I decided to do this. And 2 years later, I'm deciding not to do it again.
so let's just say that again. 39 years on the Gloucester Police Department, 2 years as councilor at large, and you couldn't take it.
I know. Imagine that, huh?
Just teasing.
No, so honestly, so why decide to step away?
You know, something. I think the pandemic has had a lot of people looking at life a little differently, and we want to spend some time traveling and some time down south avoiding snow and cold during the winters. I mean, we'd never leave Gloucester, but and that wouldn't be really practical and still be doing this. So for now, we're just going to take a break at least.
Yeah. Well, now, so do you want to comment on, there's going to be obviously a shakeup at the at-large position. The 3 positions need to be
There
filled.
is, yeah.
Just want to comment on that for a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, and they're probably going to start off in Zoom, I mean, unless things get better in a hurry. But there are some good things that came out of this, and the Zoom is one of them. That people can stay home and watch these meetings, and that's why, I don't know if you've watched the meetings recently, but I've really been a proponent of trying to get all the meetings hybrid, because there's a lot of boards and commissions that are meeting around the city now, and the administration doesn't want to do hybrid, and we've been asking them, and hopefully if we keep asking them, maybe they'll do it, or the next administration will do it.
You want to be as participatory as possible, you would think.
We had some meetings that had, great participation, and the public was able, and there's still some people that can't come out for meetings, so it's...
Yeah, and it's such a flexible way to be engaged, to be able to be making dinner.
You can make dinner and watch the meeting,
Yeah, and be at the meeting. It's really, really educational.
So, I mean, I think some good things did come out, and hopefully that, somewhere along the line they, we had Ryan from IT in front of the council about 3 months ago. And
Ryan Knowles. Yep.
Ryan Knowles, and he pointed out several places in the city that are equipped to do this. And we just haven't been able to get the administration to do it, so we'll keep asking.
So what do you think it takes to be a good city councilor?
You got to do your homework, number one. It's one thing, I remember when I got elected, Paul Lundberg came to me and said, do your reading, read everything. And I probably take it more seriously, and I'm retired, so I have more time to do it probably than most. But I mean, the charter, you should know the charter in and out. Everybody is a little bit afraid of the charter. The charter is only 41, 42 pages. I think it says it's 42 and it's really only 41. Take the time and keep reading it, and read your packet. And I know you can't read 350 pages in a day, but you can go through your packet and you can be prepared. You should be prepared before you start the meeting, so that you know what you're going to have come up at the meeting, and not be doing your homework during the meeting. So I'm a proponent of that, and I think any new councilor should do that. Be prepared to speak on what you're going to be speaking on.
Did you have a mentor helping you when you first came on?
On the city council?
Yeah.
Like Val and Steve were both very good to me. Melissa Cox has chaired BNF, and I went right on to BNF, which is where I wanted to be. And both of those two councilors had been chairs before, so it was somewhat of a learning process. I was kind of lucky that I had been before that committee on a different, asking for money instead of
Right, exactly.
granting the money.
Yeah.
But so I had spent a lot of time at council meetings over the years.
Yeah.
So I kind of was pretty comfortable with the but there's still a lot to
Process.
learn.
Yeah.
And always just I didn't run into anybody that wouldn't help me on the city council when I started. So.
Yeah. Well, geez, John, you joined city council and immediately you're dealing with a pandemic. But what were some of the highlights during your tenure that you'd like to touch upon?
Well, just the initial trying to get onto Zoom and the panic of
figured Zoom out,
trying to get on
Yeah.
there at the beginning of a meeting and saying, "Oh, it's not working." Where's
Yeah.
But we all got pretty comfortable with that pretty quick, and then we had these little tablets that the city had issued, and they were freezing up, and those were some of the. And I don't think you can replace face-to-face meetings. I really don't. I mean, and the camaraderie of sitting together and being able to do things together. So that I think we lost a little bit for this 2 years not being able to do that. We all do stay in touch and that type of thing, but it's not like being together.
There's been at least two of the people running for councilor at large are contesting, and it's part of their campaign, that no one is listening to them. So how do you respond to that?
There's two people that says no, that are
Yeah,
saying.
they say that the city hall, I assume they mean the council, they're not listening to the people. The people's voices are not being heard. Those are basically their campaign lines.
Yeah, I haven't run into it. I know I call people back, everybody that calls me, everybody that emails me. I do call people back, and we are responsive. I think maybe during the pandemic, you can't, and especially in the early stages, you couldn't go out to a neighborhood and everybody was afraid to meet, you didn't have your coffees and you didn't run into people in restaurants and, because we weren't going. So I think this past 2 years particularly probably was a little more difficult in that regard, being able to reach back out to your constituents. But, we're lucky. We were able to do it by Zoom and able to do it by phone, not like our frontline workers, our nurses, our doctors, our firemen and police that didn't have that luxury to be able to conduct business that way. So,
Right.
that was kind of difficult watching, me having just retired, watching our guys having to do that kind of thing. And so, but I didn't find, I suppose there's always going to be someone that's going to complain about something, but I think most of the councilors were pretty responsive to constituent inquiries.
Yeah.
They may not have got the answer they like, but, I hope they got an answer.
Right. Now, of course, a lot of people are sad to see you go. So what message do you have?
I don't know about that.
Well, you'd be surprised, yeah. But what message do you have for your constituents as you depart?
Stay involved. I mean, keep asking the questions. Question your government. Question the city government. Question the administration, because that's how we get things done, and that's how we know what the people want and what they need. And but don't just sit back and complain. Don't be an armchair quarterback. Get involved. Join some committees. Run for office. Be involved. I really think that will make them feel better, as well as getting their message across to the elected officials.
Yeah. And are you happy with your 2 years of service?
Yeah, I feel like we could have got more done, but and I don't like to blame the pandemic for anything, but it was a little difficult getting things done. We did get some things done, and I'm a little frustrated we didn't get more done, but that's the way it is.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to be satisfied, right? Especially if you're a worker.
How about one more comment on what it's like to have been the police chief coming to those meetings and then to have been on the other side?
It's kind of fun.
Was it? Bet.
Eric and Ed Conley had come up in front of me and say, "You're not getting away with that. I know what you're doing here." So yeah, it was different, but
Yeah.
it was a little fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, John, we appreciate your service and we appreciate you spending time with us. We're sad to see you go, but like I said, we're glad that you put the time in that you did serving the city of Gloucester.
Well,
and we hope to catch up with you down the road.
it was a great career for me in the police, and this was very enlightening the last 2 years on the council. And thank everybody for electing me in 2 years ago. And who knows, I'm going to try to stay involved in some ways.
Great.
So
Great. Well,
Thanks
we
so
hope
much.
thank you for having me.
Thank you
have
so
a great
much for
night.
coming.
Take care.
Okay, that is outgoing councilor at large, councilor and former police chief for the city of Gloucester, John Mccarthy, and he is just one of 3 at-large councilors who are leaving today, and we have, I believe, 7 candidates running for those 4 spots tonight.
Yes.
Jamie O'Hara is the only incumbent
One
running.
incumbent, right, exactly.
Yeah. So, folks, if you're just tuning in, I am Kory, and she is Heather, and you are watching Cape Ann Today live from Curcuru's auditorium as we are bringing you live coverage of Gloucester's 2021 municipal election. We're going to be here with you throughout the night until we have results and reaction. But first, a word from our sponsor, Engel and Volkers.
Engel & Volkers is a global luxury
So we can
lifestyle
pause.
brand. Founded over 40 years ago overseas, headquartered in Hamburg, Germany, and they've established themselves here in Americas just 10 years ago. At Engel & Volkers by the Sea, we are so proud to be that local provider of luxury real estate services here from our own headquarters right at Main Street in Gloucester. We celebrate our clients. It's our favorite thing to do. And we specialize in elevating that client experience for all of our buyers and sellers here on the North Shore. People aren't just buying a home with 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. They're buying a space for their life to unfold, and that's our very favorite thing to celebrate. We are proud to serve this Cape Ann community that we have been a part of for over 10 years, and that's why we support 1623 Studios, Cape Ann's Emmy-winning community media center, so that they can deliver essential local programming that is so important for all of us.
And we are back with you live from Curcuru's auditorium at Gloucester City Hall on Dale Avenue. This is Cape Ann Today Live, bringing you election coverage for the 2021 Gloucester municipal election. We're going to be here all night. I am Kory Cougar alongside my co-host Heather Atwood. How are you, Heather?
I'm good, Kory, I'm good.
Yeah.
Waiting for those results to come in. But we also have a lovely conversation with Taylor Bradford.
We do. We're finally hanging out with Taylor Bradford in
Yeah.
person. Of course, she is the reporter. She covers all things Gloucester for the Gloucester Daily Times. Thanks for joining us, Taylor.
So glad to be back, and the energy in this room is, crazy just to see people coming in, talking politics, getting excited to see the results.
It's kind of fun, right?
It's a big night.
Yeah.
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 So, Taylor, have you been out to the precincts at all today? Do you get any sort of vibe on how things have been so far?
Yeah, I have. So I started my day around noon, just kind of walking around, going to the new polling location at Cape Ann YMCA. And I think people, were excited to vote, and they had a good turnout, with maybe 375 votes by 12 p.m. I think they joked that people didn't realize how pretty the Y was, so it was less about the election and more about the fact that they have a Y.
It is beautiful.
And then Gloucester High, I think, was the place to be. If you were a Ward 3 resident, that place was popping with, you have the Ward 3 write-ins were there. I saw the mayor there. You see all these people kind of staging that part of Gloucester, kind of introducing themselves to candidates as they go through. So I think there was definitely a vibe. It's a lower turnout, I feel like, than we expected. I think we were probably expecting something around what we saw in the presidential election, just because it is such, contentious races this year. And again, I stopped going to the polling places around 5, and that's when people get off work. So I'm sure that we saw a lot more people come in to vote later on in the day.
Right. And I'll just jump in here for a second to tell you that, of course, we are coming at you from the stage at Curcuru's auditorium, and people are beginning to file in now. We are expecting results to be coming in sometime around 8:45 or so. The polls just closed citywide, and now what happens is the memory cards from each of the voting machines and tabulators are being delivered here to City Hall, where City Clerk Joe Ancinos will start to work on those, and we'll give you numbers as soon as possible. But we are expecting about 45 minutes or so before we actually get a final tally, or at least an unofficial tally, right?
So Taylor, I'm interested in Ward 3 and what sort of signage and et cetera you saw from the write-ins from Frank Margiotta and Bob Wynot.
Yeah, so we know Adam Orlando, stepped down from the election. He's the only person you'll see on the ballot, but there's 2 write-in campaigns going around town, Bob Wynot and Frank Margiotta. Frank is rather new to city politics. We know him as a family man, pretty involved just in his local community, but someone who's not kind of new to politics. And then Bob, I have to say, is my favorite sign so far around the city. It says, "Bring back Bob, why not? And I thought that was very smart.
Yeah.
Very funny and witty, but I think both have a chance to kind of, bring it to the table. Bob has years of experience here in city politics, but Frank brings a new and fresh perspective, and I think one that hasn't been kind of barred by years of politics. So I think the two have a lot to offer, and I'm excited to kind of see what happens. Sad to see Adam Orlando go, but I know that we've got two good guys running for his spot.
Yeah.
So you saw the candidates there with signs, and it was clear that they are write-in candidates, and it was clear how to spell their name, and that they should fill in the oval. Did you see signs that?
I think Frank's. I mean, I saw Bob and Frank both in Gloucester High, and Bob was there with his sign, and Frank, he had a lot of kind of helpers with clipboards walking around and kind of informing people, letting them know what to do, how to do it. And I spoke with him actually, and he's talking a little bit about how, it's been 13 days of craziness ever since he announced he's running. It's trying to do that, you announced you're running months ago, and he's doing it in a very short window. So it's a different race for him than it is for other wards.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, a couple of monkey wrenches involved with this Ward 3 race is because we have a withdrawn candidate, the write-in candidates have to get 30% of the total vote in order to even really qualify to be elected. And then what happens is Adam Orlando has already received votes because of early balloting. So once the election tally is final, Adam then has to actually refuse the results and refuse to take the oath. And then it's a matter of whether Marjota or why not have enough votes.
And 30% we think is something like 450 votes?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, depending on how many people
And the interesting thing is, if neither of them get 30% of votes, then the council that's elected, so after they are inaugurated in January, then that new council votes on any resident who comes forward and says they want to run for that position. The council will elect them. So, I was talking to Frank, and he said, if we don't get 30%, I could run again, essentially, for the council to vote me in, but also anyone else can run. So, it means that the pool could get bigger, later down the line. So we'll see what happens, but it'll be good.
And another reason for the delay is you have people stumping for either candidate at the polling station, and they are literally handing out little address labels or stickers with a candidate's name. But the voters actually have to fill in the accompanying oval in order for the voting machine to actually register the vote.
Right.
And so what happens is some people won't be doing that, so when the memory cards come here, we have to wait for a hand count of those votes before we can have some idea of how Ward 3 is going to shake out. That is really going to be the reason for the delay in results tonight.
Right.
So we haven't spoken at all about the re-precincting issues in Ward 2.
Yes.
You want to run through that, Taylor?
Yeah, so it's funny. It's kind of been resolved for now in the meanwhile. So we could clarify that Tracy O'Neill can represent her ward as it stands right now in Ward 2 if she is elected. The state kind of made it clear that re-precincting, if it were to happen, that would change parts of Ward 2 to Ward 1. Wouldn't happen until a couple of years from now, so she could run to represent her ward that she's currently in if she were to be elected. But if she were to run again for re-election next term, then she would have to run for Ward 1, not Ward 2. Okay. So that's been clarified a little bit more, but I think it still begs the question is, did all this back and forth kind of disrupt that race? Because, we saw the debate, and it unfortunately was not the cleanest debate, let's be honest.
No.
You could tell that she had just received this news, was frazzled, and Barry Pett's a veteran of this kind of council and knows a lot, so you could say he was more kind of just informing the public and Tracy of kind of what it means to be a city councilor because he's known it for so long. Where for Tracy, she's asking herself, am I even going to be allowed to run? And when I talked with her afterwards, she said that's really what shook her up, and she knew a lot of those answers. A lot of those were pretty much, handout answers, questions, but for her, it really was just kind of a jostle to the system. And I think she wrote in a letter to the editor, or kind of spoke up later, just kind of saying, here's what I represent. I speak for the people. Here's kind of what my perspective is. So I think, Barry really brings, and he proved himself. He has a lot of experience, and I think he's a really good chance of winning. But I think Tracy also, she represents, I think, a lot of people who feel like their voice isn't being heard, and that always resonates with voters. Always resonates with voters. You can't disregard that. So.
Well, I will tell you that
that debate offered my favorite moment of the whole campaign. And that was when, as you said, Tracy was clearly frazzled throughout the debate. You know, she was struggling. We knew that she had just learned this news that she may not be able to actually represent Ward 2. And then her tone was nervous and, you know, disrupted, I would say. But then at the very end, she kind of pulled up this completely natural voice and said, you know what? I ran in this race because I went to a city council meeting about my sidewalk and no one would listen to me. And I was like, yes, that is a great answer. And that is, you know, you're speaking honestly, and you know, and we all have been that citizen who's really, really frustrated, and I haven't done it, but we've all kind of said probably, I'm just going to run for that office because I can't stand how this is being done. And she did that. Yeah. And I love that moment, her sort of Erin Brockovich moment, maybe.
Well, and to explain the re-precincting for a bit too, so you know, we have 5 wards here in Gloucester, and each ward has 2 precincts. The wards are divided essentially by population, so you try to get around 6,000 or so people in each ward, and these precincts are often reviewed, and the lines change every now and then. So, in other words, if you live on French Street or down towards the Crow's Nest or Rose Square, you could be voting for one ward this year, but 2 years from now, you could be voting in an entirely different ward. And so that's kind of the presto changeo that happened in the Ward 2 race this year.
Well, I think this came from the census.
Right.
So the lines got redrawn because of the census.
Yep.
And it's only this situation with Ward 2 and Ward 1 that is a 2-year situation. And the state made an exception for that. Because, you know, and I think that's kind of interesting that the state basically acknowledged they screwed up.
Well, that's the thing, is I don't think that it was necessarily, the state wasn't involved in the conversation of, oh, we have somebody running for re-election. It's more clarifying when there was going to be, you know, the re-precincting was going to activate essentially. So they clarified that the re-precincting was going to occur, but it wasn't like they were saying, oh, like, you know, we'll change or this and they're saying like this is what it's always been. Which contradicted what Chip Pace and the city's legal counsel had mentioned, you know, and kind of gave his perspective and his opinion on the matter. Right. So I don't really think the state was involved in our local politics of sorts. But I
thought it came from the state. Well, we'll have to confirm this.
So the state came with the re-precincting, which is done every 10 years. That's in line with the census.
Right.
And then when we had the Tracy O'Neill situation, they reached out to the state because, you know, a couple city councilors said we'll reach out to them, and they, you know, saying, oh, like this is when it's going to occur.
I see.
You know, you have to start the processes now.
So they weren't saying that they did anything wrong.
No.
Okay. But they did make they somehow helped. They resolved the situation.
Right, they resolved the situation by clarifying.
But it's only that isn't it only this district or this precinct?
It should be all. But we can double check.
Okay, let's double check.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we do want to say it is now past the 8 o'clock hour. All polls have closed, and so we'll keep our eye on the floor here at Kory's Auditorium to see if City Clerk Joe Lancinos shows up with those little memory cards from all the voting machines, and then away we go. So.
And let me know when it's 8:20. Let me know because I will have to dip out because we have to meet our times deadline for publication. So at 8:20, I'll have to dip out.
Yeah, you'll have all the coverage coming forward,
We got a
especially
clock
tomorrow
up there,
morning.
but I hear it's a little slow.
Oh, that's slow. Yeah, we have plenty of time, Taylor. We have a good 15 minutes with you. So let's get into the races now, right? So the big enchilada, of course, is incumbent Favazza Mayor taken against challenger Greg Verga. It got contentious towards the end. I think we were sort of waiting for those face-to-face debates to see some fireworks, and then it finally happened.
Yeah.
So what was your assessment of, you know, viewing the campaign trail over the last couple of months and just sort of gauge like the temperature of the city?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, I think they're both very qualified and competent people when it comes to the position. And you know, when Greg Verga announced that he was running for mayor, I didn't really think he had any stake in the game because Favazza was such a strong candidate, and all the other ones who ran, although they had great kind of campaign mantras, really didn't hold up to kind of the experience that she has. But I think the primaries really put him on the map because we saw him win in every single ward, kind of, you know, top the ticket. And so that kind of brought the question is, okay, like what is his focus going to be, and how is he going to separate himself from Safathia? And then we had the debates, right? You know, it was clear, and we've talked about this before, Safathia really showed that she can work the stage and really, you know, give the answers that are going to bring insight to her experience, but also connect with the people on a personal level and really kind of show that she's one of them in that first debate at the Cape Ann Chamber. You know, and then we have, you know, the different individual interviews, which are helpful, but again, you're not going to have that kind of back and forth of it. You know, that's such an important piece of showing how they communicate. And then we had the Magnolia Library one, which I think, you know, that's the one that really got a little fire. And like you said, Kory, it's one of those things where we were waiting for something like that. Not like that we wanted it, but that you're waiting for that. And, you know, I think it showed, you know, Greg really is focused on that concept of resetting the city, frustrated with, you know, the reports and allegations against the mayor, and then seeing more about how he can really bring the city back on track.
And Taylor, I can tell you right now, sorry to interrupt, but Joanne Sinos, the city clerk, is here, and she is receiving the voting tabulations now. So
And
let's
she's
not go into
sitting
that.
behind the yellow caution tape.
Appropriately enough, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, okay, so thanks for that. All right, so sorry to interrupt. I think another big story too, if we can want to keep talking about the mayoral race, but also the turnover. We just spoke with a lot of the outgoing elected officials. You know, it seemed, Heather, like in Taylor, that the pandemic wore on a lot of people. You know, it was cool that there was more participation from constituents, right, and residents here, but also it was very taxing to try to navigate and govern through a pandemic. Did you get that? Yeah, did you get that feeling at all too?
I did. You know, I think, you know, these people, a lot of these people who are leaving have been here for so long. And I think that's the big question is like, you know, how long can you stay on these certain types of government with, let's be honest too, you know, you're getting a certain stipend too, and you know, you're wanting to volunteer your time, but at the same time is you know, the compensation is also sometimes hard. You know, if you're working till 1 o'clock in the morning, it's not doable if you also
7
have
days
a job.
a week. Yeah.
And you know, a lot of these people seem tired, but they also seem passionate. I think that's probably hard for them all to decide to leave. And while I think it's encouraging to see how many people are engaging in, you know, running. New people are running for these positions, it also means that we're losing a huge hole of professional and experienced people in these. I mean, let's talk, we have Jonathan Pope of Joel Favazza, Melissa Texier Prince, you know, we have John Mccarthy, Steve Leblanc, you know, all these people and more, like they've been in here for so long and they know how the processes work. And that's really at the foundational level, a lot of how city government gets moved along. Obviously there's kinks and you need, you know, restructurings, but I think it's really gonna take the incumbents or the people who are uncontested this year for re-election are really going to have to be the guiding light for a lot of these newcomers.
You know, I see Jason Grow over there, and I actually have a quote from him on this piece of paper talking about process, how important it is for these new people coming on to take the time and learn the process before they're jumping into any big decisions, because he said that is one of the most important parts. And then I guess also Jeff Worthley started this new city councilor orientation program. Do you know about that? Yeah, he mentioned it a couple times in a couple of the debates, and but I haven't pinned down anyone who understands what that is and if he will be doing it this year.
Well, it's something. I mean, when you look at the overall participation, the folks running for these positions, right? So we had 27 total candidates this election season. We're down to 23 tonight. And that's out of a population of 31,000. So less than 1/10 of 1% of the population runs for public office. It's not an easy time to do this. It's mostly thankless. It's not like it's super high paying positions as well. So, I mean, you have to tip your caps to everyone wanting to be involved in the process and all that. And then you have to consider things like it's hard to be critical of someone and then 10 minutes later you see them at the grocery store. Or, you know, you're so intimately involved in all the things in the community, and I think it's difficult to govern. And so it was cool to see the number of people running this year, but with that turnover comes a big learning curve. We've heard it from all the outgoing people. You've got to study your package, you've got to know the city charter really well, and we've talked to people who are staying in the race or sticking in their positions, uncontested races. Val Gilman, I remember her telling us, you know, it's they're going to miss the continuity. You know, you're used to working with these folks over a long period of time, in some cases 10 years plus. You know, so it's going to be a pretty interesting year as these folks who are coming in serve 2-year terms, which lead us right into Gloucester's 400th anniversary in 2023.
No, it's like, it's almost for some of these incumbents, it will be like the teacher getting the new class. You know, the turnover will be almost feel that large and that important.
Yes.
Or significant, I should say.
So Taylor, let's ask, so, you know, and you've covered all things municipal for a long time now for the Gloucester Times. You know, what made this election year different?
Yeah, and so it's funny because when I started, you know, I'm grateful you say it's flattering to say I've worked here a long time. Really, it's only been 2 years.
Well, hey,
so
we just heard John McCarthy.
Yeah.
He was like, he did 39 in police in 2 years. Like,
Two
oh
in
my.
city council. Yeah.
So, you know, I came on at the end of that election season, you know, 2 years ago, and I think it seemed pretty
so
calm.
interesting. Yeah.
This year, right, we have so many contested races. You know, we've had so much turmoil, you know, with the pandemic, and we're also working alongside too, as there's a lot of like interdepartmental conversations and conflict management and discussions around that on all different sides, right? And so I think there's a lot of conversations about what is Gloucester going to look like next. It almost seems like it's, you know, whoever is elected for whatever position, whether it's re-election or, you know, a new person in the position, it looks like there's going to be needing a shift. There's something is looking like it's about to shift, and I think that's what people are getting people excited to run for office and to kind of starting those conversations, saying, okay, what do we need to do differently, especially as we go into the 400th, right? The 400th anniversary is its own thing, has its own committee, but it also represents, right, reevaluation of what does the city represent, and we hear it from these candidates, you know, wanting to hold on to heritage, but also use the past to inform the present and the future. That's been said over and over and again, and I think that's something that's on everyone's minds as we go forward into, you know, November 3rd. So.
Well said.
Taylor, I'd like to know, what has it been like being a reporter for a local newspaper? And it's like, we're not Hooterville, it is Gloucester, we're on the map, you know, with like long-standing heritage, a lot of family histories here, an island mentality. And what's it like coming from the outside in and covering this? And a lot of times you're the only one covering, you know, doing municipal coverage for the local newspaper.
Through the pandemic, by the way. I mean, pre-pandemic,
Yeah.
you entered that pandemic right along with everybody else in City Hall and in the city of Gloucester.
Yeah,
right?
well, I can say it's been a joy, and it's been, I tell people it's the best first job out of college because I feel like you learn so much about a municipality to become an informed citizen of wherever you live. And I feel like Gloucester, as a passionate city who has a lot of chutzpah and has a lot of, you know, like heritage and history that's really fascinating, I feel like it's where I can learn so much, and people are so willing and inviting to share that with me. Now, you know, it is an island mentality, and so sometimes it's hard because you have people from all different perspectives, and I'm not looking to get one side over the other at all. It's really just trying to listen to both sides, and oftentimes you have both sides angry at you, both sides happy with you, one's happy, one's not, vice versa.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of conflicting views, but I'm learning so much about how to listen well. And I can't say I do it perfectly all the time, but it is such a gift to be able to learn how to do that through the eyes of an island that it just has so much to offer.
So do you have any favorite moments from the campaign trail?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I mean, I think today, right, I was telling you guys earlier, I went over to the Cape Ann Y and I saw Tony Verga with his, you know, Greg Verga sign, and then I saw a Safathia supporter with her Safathia sign, and they like grew up on the same street, and they're laughing and hugging each other, and they're like, you know, at the end of the day, like, someone's gonna get elected, and, you know, the person for Gloucester is going to get elected, and we're gonna still be friends. And I think that's just the quintessence of Gloucester, right? Like, you know, you grow up together, you learn, and you love to live where you love to, what was it Carmel K said, you live where you love and you love where you live, right? And I feel like people who have grown up here, they believe that, and I think that's something that just like, I'll take with me wherever I go.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's a great story. And that, there's Carl McKay right there, I believe, right?
That's Carl McKay.
Yeah, everybody's filling
lots
in.
of candidates are starting to come in now.
And I think I need to head on out, but
Okay.
yeah, I've got to start running away, but thank you guys so much.
you,
I
Taylor.
really appreciate
Taylor, we
it.
want to thank you for all the help you've given us navigating through the campaign season, and we're looking forward to speaking with you again Thursday, and I'm sure we'll just react to the results, and you'll probably have 10 articles out by then. So, yeah.
Oh, well, guys, thank you so much, and have a
Definitely.
great night.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
All right,
you.
maybe we'll see you out there at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, bye.
All right, thank you, Taylor. That is Taylor Bradford of the Gloucester Daily Times. we lean on Taylor a lot for her answers, and like we said, like she hasn't had an easy road.
No,
over
well,
the last
she's
few
a
months either.
journalist, and we're not. And we get to talk to her every week and find out what's happening right from, from the desk of the journalist. So,
Right. Well, let's
great.
get folks caught up here now. The polls have closed. I am Kory, Curcuru, and this is Heather Atwood. And this is Cape Today, brought to you by 1623 Studios, and we're bringing you live coverage of the 2021 Gloucester municipal election. We are coming at you right from this stage at Kory's Auditorium at City Hall in downtown Gloucester. We are awaiting results from the city clerk's office. They are literally 15 feet right in front of us. You're watching them. We are expecting the results to come in sort of in one fell swoop. However, the results won't be official for some days from now. There's a few reasons for that. I can tell you one is there are still 10 days have to pass before ballots from overseas are counted. There are write-in candidates this year. There's serious write-in candidates this year.
Right.
And those votes need to be hand counted, and that we hope is happening this evening as well. And there's also the notion that with Melissa Texera Prince not running for school committee, she had already received votes, as did Adam Orlando in Ward 3, from early voters. So do they have enough votes to actually win their races or be one of the winners in the races in the school committees? Okay, so that is going to take some time to sort through as well.
Right, and that could hang some things up. I think particularly maybe the school committee decisions, that when we need to talk to Joanne Sinos about exactly how that works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I was kind of hoping to get a couple more minutes to talk to Taylor about this, but Favazza and Gregory, like they have a history together. Like they work together for a long time as well. We heard this in some of the debates amongst school committee members, especially, and at large, is these folks are their willingness to, and they're looking forward to working with one another. They have to work together in order to move things forward, and things aren't easy right now. There are some crisis situations facing the city. There's a lot of great things going forward as well, but we're still navigating with throughout COVID, and people are trying to learn how to govern. And so that's what makes this night so fascinating. We just have a lot of new faces involved.
Can we just mention the level of exhaustion for the people who have been serving?
Yeah,
the
not to
past
mention the
2
anchor
years.
people.
Yeah, we were here. We endured this pandemic too, didn't we? Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a little break here to cut away to our sponsor, Engel & Volkers. We'll be right back with live coverage of the 2021 Gloucester municipal elections after this.
Engel & Volkers is a global luxury lifestyle brand. Founded over 40 years ago overseas, headquartered in Hamburg, Germany, and they've established themselves here in Americas just 10 years ago. At Engel & Volkers by the Sea, we are so proud to be that local provider of luxury real estate services here from our own headquarters right at Main Street in Gloucester. We celebrate our clients. It's our favorite thing to do. And we specialize in elevating that client experience for all of our buyers and sellers here on the North Shore. People aren't just buying a home with 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. They're buying a space for their life to unfold, and that's our very favorite thing to celebrate. We are proud to serve this Cape Ann community that we have been a part of for over 10 years, and that's why we support 1623 Studios, Cape Ann's Emmy-winning community media center, so that they can deliver essential local programming that is so important for all of us.
And we are back with live coverage of the 2021 Gloucester municipal election from City Hall. This is Cape Ann Today. I am Kory. She is Heather. And Heather, this is our marathon coverage.
It is.
For a marathon campaign.
Yeah, we're waiting for results. Joanne Sinos is in front of us. She has yellow caution tape all around her to keep anyone from intruding on the important work she's doing. They're kind of bent over what looks like old computers to me, but it's not an old computer.
Right. So they bring in the memory cards come in from all the voting machines, and eventually the tops of the voting machines also are delivered here too. The constables bring those.
That's the top to a voting machine.
Yeah. And so they'll tabulate those votes, and then of course they're gonna have to deal with write-ins and hand counting those afterwards as well. And we will not have official results for. It's November 15th is actually when the election is closed and those results are official. We'll have numbers for you tonight.
Right.
And then, but then there's still a matter of whether a candidate might request a recount. There's a lot of races today, and there might be some really tight battles. And if that happens, they have 10 days to request a recount, any candidate, and that deadline would be November 12th at 5 p.m.
The candidate has to
The
request.
candidate has to request that,
the
right?
recount, right.
And then if that happens, I believe that is a Friday, and then by the following Monday, the final tally is actually announced. So
Right.
we shall see.
Right, so let's see where the recounts could be. Certainly in the mayor's race, it may be so close that someone calls a recount. Perhaps in councilor at large and school committee even, right?
We have 7 candidates vying
Yeah.
for 4 positions at large and 6 for school committee. And and the big news there with Melissa Texera Prince withdrawing recently, and she was a very popular school committee member for a long 14 years, right?
Right. And she is on the ballot,
Yeah.
as is Adam Orlando in Ward 3.
Yeah, and then we have 2 passionate write-in candidates vying for the Ward 3 seat, and Frank Marjota and Bob Wynot. And then, of course, we have a contest for Ward 2 between Barry Pett, the incumbent, and Tracy O'Neill. So it's going to be a pretty interesting night.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of passion behind Tracy O'Neill. I think, as I was saying, her last speech after the Chamber of Commerce debate, when she talked about not having the city council be responsive to her needs as a constituent in her sidewalk, it was really heartfelt, and I think she's probably got her neighborhood behind her. So
This
we'll
is true.
see.
And Barry's been there for a lot too in Ward 2,
Yes.
including now the consolidation of the school, and that demo is underway, which is probably the biggest story in Gloucester for the last year and a half or so, I would say, maybe 2 years now.
Right.
So interesting stuff.
Yeah. You know what I think is going to be the next big story, providing the pandemic settles down, will be the new harbor plan. There's a lot of talk about that. The city has just launched the meetings for the new harbor plan. They went public, I think, last week, and trying to figure out what is going to happen with the zoning around the harbor. And we're going to talk to Tony Gross about that. I hope he's out there. But I think that's going to be a really big issue.
Yeah. And we're coming at you from the stage at Cairo's Auditorium. We can tell you there are about, 40 people or so milling about. A lot of the candidates are here awaiting the results. It is about 8:25 p.m. Joanne Sinos, the city clerk, told us earlier today they're expecting to have results around 8:45 or so, but we were here for the preliminary mayoral election on September 14th, and those results came in fast, and that was among 6 candidates. Obviously, a lot more races happening this time around, and so we'll see how things shake out, but we believe when we do get the results, it's going to be sort of cut and dried, one fell swoop. Here are the numbers, and then after that fact, there's going to be the hand count for write-ins and whatnot, and of course overseas ballot. But we should have a pretty definitive idea of who tonight's winners are.
Right, and those overseas ballots, Joanne Sinos had told us that they definitely sent, people had applied from overseas for ballots, and they were sent, and they have to be received by, they have to have been received by Monday, yesterday at noon, I believe.
Yes, and then I think overseas has time to come in after the election
That's
day,
right.
as long as they're
can come
postmarked.
after. Right, exactly. They have to be
Right.
postmarked
Yeah.
before that date.
And they can be received up to 10 days after the
But
actual
mail
election.
is slow these days.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
So they have to be postmarked by that date, right. Before that date.
So, of course, some fascinating races, Heather. Mayor, of course, we have incumbent Savazza Mayo Taken and the challenger, Greg Verga. If you could ask 10 people in the city on any given day for the last month or so who they think is going to win, and it would probably be split 5-5. It'll be fascinating to see how those results play out tonight, because we saw in 2015 when Savazza ran against then City Council President Paul Mccarthy. Paul won the preliminaries. He won every ward, and we're almost 2-1. That was a small turnout.
Right, yeah.
But that did happen this time around with Greg Verga, not 2-1, but he won easily. However, we saw in the race in 2015, those numbers didn't really mean much.
No.
So it'd be fascinating to see what, if that holds true to form. I mean, I think it would be a major upset. We have numbers here, Kyle? Okay, so some of the ward numbers are starting to come in now. Okay, so we can tell you folks, in Ward 1 right now, Greg Verga has an early lead over Safathia Mayo taken. It looks to be about 700 votes for Verga to just about, I'd say, 420 or so for Safathia. That's Ward 1. Ward 2 not in yet. Ward 3 not in yet. Ward 4 and Ward 5 not in yet. So a very, very early tally.
Just Ward 1.
Just Ward 1 and Verga with an early lead there, about 700 to 420.
Okay.
So we shall see. So thanks, Kyle, for that. So yeah, we'll be updating these numbers. Literally, I think it's going to come in fast. We're going to try to break down the individual races and then get into the ward discussion too, because the wards are, they're different from central Gloucester to the outskirts of the city. So that'll be interesting.
And Scott Memhard is the councillor from Ward 1, is that right?
Yes.
And he did endorse Verga.
He did, yep. Yeah, I think we can safely assume that Scott Memhard will be your Ward 1 council member moving forward, as will Val Gilman running unopposed in Ward 4, and Sean Nolan running unopposed in Ward 5.
Right.
Okay, and we'll just keep you updated to
what's that?
We have different numbers here now. This is for at-large results for Ward 1. Jason Grow with a substantial lead, I'd say 775 votes or so. Tony Grow second, just under 600 votes. Jamie O'Hara third with about 430 votes, I'd say. Peter Canavo fourth, just under 400 votes, and just behind him, Jeffrey Worthley, followed by Robin Hubbard and Carl McKay Jr. But of course, that's Ward 1, and this is early.
So, and I
Let's do this, Heather.
believe that Jason was the ward councillor for Ward 1 a while ago. He served 2 terms. So that's not a surprise, really.
Okay, school committee for Ward 1. Kathleen Clancy, safe, 630 votes there. Sam Verga Watson, just over 600. Laura Vason, just at 600. Those are 3 incumbents. Then you have Bill Melvin, just over 400. Thomas Stein, just under 400. Melissa Texera Prince, just under 400. We told you about that.
Right.
Keith Minio is there as well. We don't have numbers for Richard Roberts yet, so that can't be complete.
Okay.
So there's no tally yet. So it looks
Right.
like, Ward 1 is coming in now, and I remember this from 2 years ago. It sort of came in ward by ward.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So I'll refresh this page.
We apologize that we're just going to be staring at this iPad.
Okay, so we just get a breakdown of Ward 1 and 2. So yeah, we still have, Greg Verga
the
now.
precincts?
His lead here in Ward 1, it looks to be about 1250 to, I'd say, 770, something like that. So Verga up about 500 votes in Ward 1. We do not have 2, 3, 4, or 5 yet. At large, we do not have yet.
School committee, Ward 1. Oh, we just did that. Okay.
Yep, that is no, and we have Richard Roberts. Richard Roberts does have some votes there. He is in 7th right now with about 200 and I'd say 30 or 40 votes there too. But again, we
And
don't
maybe
know if those
10
are final.
write-ins.
Yeah, there's some write-ins as well. Okay.
So really, we just have results in Ward 1
We'll
so
wait till
far.
we get a signal from our gang about Ward 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are dealing with numbers now, so things are going to start happening fast, folks, and the numbers are coming in a little earlier than we anticipated, which is a good sign. We know you're there waiting with bated breath on what these final numbers are going to be. Memhard, we have the finals for Ward 1. Scott Memhard is your winner with 1,332 votes as of now, as of this moment. Okay, Ward 1, councilors at large. Jason Grow comfortably with over 1,100 votes, nearly 1,200 votes. And second, Tony Gross with, I'd say, maybe 900 votes or close to 880, somewhere in there. Jamie O'Hara is in third. The 3 of them are in pretty safe position here in Ward 1. It's tight between Peter Canavo, he has a slight edge over Jeffrey Worthley, who has a slight edge over Robin Hubbard, and then Carl McKay Jr. as I'd say 375 or so. And there as well, there are a handful of write-ins there too. Okay, school committee for Ward 1, Sam Verga Watson and Kathleen Clancy have, I would say, about 1,100 votes or so. They seem very safe. Laura Vason there as well. Those are the three incumbents. Laura's over 1,000. Then it gets tighter. Bill Melvin at 750. Melissa Texera Prince still getting votes. Just behind him, and just behind Melissa is Thomas Stein, followed by Keith Minio and Richard Roberts Jr.
So Richard Roberts has approximately 450, 480.
Yeah, which would be a couple hundred behind the middle of the pack here, which is Melvin,
Right, I'm just
Prince, Stein, and Minio.
yeah, just to give context.
Yeah.
Where'd Joancinas go?
Okay, we have results from Ward 2. As of right now, Greg Verga has about 425 votes or so. Safathri Mayo taken about 320 votes. That is Ward 2. And we're waiting for a breakdown of precincts there. But Verga with an edge of about 100 or so votes in Ward 2. Councilor at large, we're still waiting on for Ward 2. School committee, we're still waiting on. But okay, we can go back to this, Heather.
I'm just letting you scroll, Kory.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, and there are some write-ins as well. But right now I would say it's Verga at about 430, if
Yeah.
so. 425,
Yeah.
430. Safathia, 320 or so, somewhere in there. So that's what that looks like.
So that's about half the results, you think?
We shall see. I mean, if we're thinking Ward 1 is cemented yet.
I mean in Ward 2, half the results.
Right, well, we haven't seen the
Right.
precinct breakdown yet
Right.
for Ward 1. You'll probably be following this on our big board, our market board. It's the way they used to do weather
Yeah,
back in the
right.
1970s. That's how we're doing things tonight. And I see Greg Verga is here in the house. I do not see
yeah.
Safathi yet, but there are a lot of candidates there milling around. Let's refresh this page. Okay, Ward 1, Verga leading by
1,500, no, 1,250.
1250 to
1230.
800 or so.
Yeah.
So he's up big there. Ward 2, okay. And here we go. Safathri Mayo taken. As this precinct has come in, has the lead in Ward 2. She has just over 600 votes. Verga just over 400 votes. And we'll see what happens when we get Ward 2, Precinct 2's numbers in.
Right.
So hold on for that. Okay, Councilor at large for Ward 2, Jamie O'Hara
Wow.
has the lead there with about 300 and I'd say 15 or 20 votes. Just behind him is Jeffrey Worthley with about 290. Peter Canavo right on his heels, I'd say 280, 275, followed by Robin Hubbard and Jason Groh. Tony Gross is right there too. I mean, they're neck to neck to neck right
Wow.
now. And then Carl McKay Jr. just over 200, and there are a handful of write-ins there as well. That is Ward 2 Precinct 1, so we're still waiting for Ward 2 and 2. So these numbers are going to change pretty dramatically, folks, so stay tuned. School committee, there's Ward 1, Sam Verga Watson, Kathleen Clancy, Laura Vason. Okay, school committee for Ward 2 right now, Sam Verga Watson, 450 votes or so. Kathleen Clancy, just under 400. Laura Vason, I'd say just over 350 votes, followed by Melissa Texera Prince in fourth, just over 300, and then Bill Melvin, Keith Minio, Thomas Stein, and Richard Roberts neck to neck. Wow. Okay, so we have results from Ward 2. Heather, you want to announce those?
Yeah, I would like to. So we have the results for the ward councilor for Ward 2, O'Neill 640 to Pets 637.
Wow. Okay, so you have to
Wow.
imagine there's going to be a recount there. Are these final on, or are we?
Wow.
Wow.
I told you she was impassioned.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Tracy O'Neill has we're talking the slightest of edges over incumbent Barry Pett, 640 to 637. we'll keep you posted on that to make sure they are final. Of course, there are write-ins,
Yes.
and there could be ballot errors as well.
Right.
Okay, this is Ward 1. As we said, Greg Verga comfortably over Safathri Mayo taken there in Ward 1 and Ward 2. Verga now with Ward 2, Precinct 2 now reporting. We have totals in. Verga has about 775 votes, I'd say. Safathri, I would say a hair over 600 votes. So Verga by a little over 100 votes in Ward 2 over Safathri Mayo taken, as of now.
Yeah, these are not final.
Right. Okay, we
fine.
have results from Ward 3, Precinct 1. Greg Verga, I would say about 380 votes. Safathri Mayo taken, 260 or so. But again, that's Ward 3, Precinct 1. We still have the second precinct to report there. Councilors at large, Ward 1, Grow comfortably, Gross, and O'Hara comfortably. And then it gets tighter between Canavo, Worthley, and Hubbard. And Carl McKay Jr. Is back a little bit there. Ward 2 for at large, Jamie O'Hara, nearly 600 votes now. So he would win that ward. And then Jeff Worthley, barely second over Jason Grow and Tony Gross. They are right there. And then just behind them, Peter Canavo. Just behind Peter is Robin Hubbard. And then Carl McKay Jr. has nearly 400 votes there. So let's go over these numbers.
Well, maybe 15 write-ins.
Right. And so we would say Jamie O'Hara, this is again election results for Ward 2. Nearly 600 votes, 590 plus, I would say. And second, Jeff Worthley would be around, let's say, 515. Tony Gross would be around 510. Jason Grow, 505, let's say. Peter Canavo, maybe a hair under 500. Robin Hubbard is close there as well, in the upper 400s. Then Carl McKay, almost 400. Okay? Yikes. School Committee Ward 1, we told you Verga Watson, Laura Vason, Kathleen Clancy, with Bill Melvin coming in there, and it gets a little tighter between Melissa Texera Prince, who was withdrawn, Thomas Stein, Keith Minio, and then Richard Roberts Jr. Now let's refresh this real quickly. Mayor. Okay, Ward 3. Ward 3, Precinct 2 is now in. Greg Verga with over 800 votes there. Safathri Mayo taken, I would say 675, somewhere in there. So you could say Verga had maybe 150 vote edge in Ward 3. And just a smattering of write-ins there. Councilors at large for Ward 1, Grow, Gross, O'Hara, Canavo. For Ward 2, it's super tight. O'Hara, Worthley, Gross, Grow. Okay,
This one's
Ward
tighter.
3 for at large, Jamie O'Hara, Peter Canavo. So we'll say Jamie O'Hara with 675, let's say. Peter Canavo, 650, perhaps 640. Jason Grow, maybe 610, 615. And then neck and neck for that fourth spot between Jeff Worthley and Tony Gross. It actually looks like a virtual tie. Okay, so we also have this from Ward 3 just in. Adam Orlando, who stayed on the ballot, though he withdrew, I believe on October 12th, maybe the 18th. He has 436 votes. The writing candidates have 823 votes as of now, and that is folks who filled in the oval. We don't know about the hand count yet for folks who hadn't. So we may see
Yeah,
that
there could be a
30%
winner.
threshold.
Yeah, exactly. So interesting.
Okay. School Committee Ward 1, Clancy, Sam Verga Watson, pretty much there. I would say Sam might have won that by a hair. Laura Wiesner there as well, the three incumbents. And then Bill Melvin Jr., Melissa Texera Prince, Stein, Minio, Richard Roberts Jr.
Prince is on the ballot.
Yep.
She's doing
Ward
well.
2, the incumbents fare well. So does Melissa Texera Prince in fourth. Bill Melvin, Keith Minio, and Stein and Richard Roberts are neck to neck there. Ward 3, Sam Verga Watson, Laura Vason, Kathleen Clancy again, and then Melissa Texera Prince, followed by Bill Melvin, Keith Minio, Thomas Stein, just a hair over Richard Roberts. You see a theme here as well.
Yeah, this is really going to be an issue in the school committee with the Prince votes.
No results from 4 or 5 yet. Okay, Heather has a sheet. You've got numbers there?
We do. Okay, so the mayor. Do you want to read these, Kory?
Okay. All right, so as of now, this is with 10,000 votes, 9,199 votes in the race for mayor with 9,920 total votes. Greg Verga over Safathri Mayor Taken. Greg has 5,829 votes, or almost 59%. The Safathri Mayor Taken's 4,047, which is 41%, just around in there with 44 write-in votes. So Verga over Thakin, 59 to 41. Councilor at large, Jason Groh, Jamie O'Hara, Tony Gross, and Jeff Worthley. Peter Carnavo is right on the heels of Jeff Worthley, though. That's a tight one.
Yeah, that's really close.
Ward 1 Councilor Scott Memhard ran unopposed. Ward 2 Councilor Tracy O'Neill by 3 votes over Barry Pett. There are 12 write-ins as well. Ward 3 Councilor write-in votes, 823. Adam Orlando does have 436 votes. He will refuse that. Ward 4 Val Gilman, of course, ran unopposed. Sean Nolan for Ward 5. School Committee, Sam Verka Watson, Kathleen Clancy, Laura Vason, Bill Melvin, Melissa Texera Prince, who has withdrawn, Keith Minio, and then you have Thomas Stein with 2,895 votes over Richard Roberts with 2,510 votes. So by a little more than a percentage point, Thomas Stein over Richard Roberts. We'll see how that plays out. Okay, so we are going to bring on the mayor-elect Gregory Verga. If we believe these are the total, this is with 100% reporting, folks. Greg Verga is going to be the new mayor for the city of Gloucester.
Thank you
How
for
are you,
joining
Mr. Verga?
us.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm doing all right.
Jeez.
How's it feel?
Surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just spoke with Safathri about 5 minutes ago, so I appreciated that call. We're going to work together for the transition and do what we need to do.
That's great. That's great. And what were her words to you?
Well, kind of personal, but she wants me to enjoy the night, and we'll get down to business. Like I say, I told her I'd give her a call tomorrow. Told her to relax tonight, and we'll speak tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, Greg, let's just talk about the last few months, what it's been like for you and your family to go through this. I mean, it was relatively turbulent-free. I mean, there were some testy moments, but as was expected. But overall, your thoughts on the campaign?
It was, well, I think we ran a really, really great campaign. We had a lot of great volunteers who put in countless hours. Every morning there was an 8 a.m. conference call, so we had the marching orders each day of what everybody was doing. And then we had a great group of consultants, Nor'easter Strategy Group, who really helped us with the targeting that we needed to do. So so from our point of view as a campaign, it went really well. It did get a little testy here and there, but I think overall the goal that we both had was to make the city a better place. And I'm happy that my message resonated, because here we are.
Yeah. And we did make a point tonight, too, to say that you and Safathri, you've worked for years together.
Yes,
you know?
right. Yeah, we were elected the same day. I got on the school committee, she got on the council the same day in 2001. So.
Yeah.
Taylor Bradford had a great story about going down to, it was at the Y, she was covering the Y, the polling at the Y, and your dad was there, and there were some Safathri supporters and her family there, and everyone was getting along very well.
Yeah, I mean, my father, he's known her family forever, so it's in the preliminary, my father's an older gentleman, and one of Safathri's supporters gave him a chair to sit on when he was at the high school holding signs in September, so. It wasn't a fight against supporters versus supporters. It was just, I think, a fight for the issues and the vision, and that was about it. It wasn't personal for me, and I hope it wasn't personal on the other side.
Right.
So remember, Greg, at one point in one of the debates, you were asked what you plan to do within your first, say, 100 days or so in office. So as you make this transition now, what are those hot button issues that you need to address?
Well, I mean, the first thing is to sit down and talk to, individually to managers and let them know, there's going to be a little different way of doing business. And, I'd like to see what they've been working on, what their plans are for the next 6 months, and we'll decide where we go from there. But so that's the key. Make sure we're all on the same page. The end result is we're customer service oriented, and the customer is the resident. And so I want to start with the top, for me as the new mayor, right down to the managers, middle managers, rank and file, so everybody feels like we're all in this together to make the city a better place. But obviously we've got a lot of other big issues. I was just talking to Senator Tarr about the ARPA money, so I'm going to meet with him, talk about what the options are, the opportunities. But we've got a lot of things to do. I mean, I don't really have a laundry list on me right now, but there's a lot that we've got to do to just the transition itself, getting up and running, getting the new administration going, is going to be the focus for the next 60-odd days till January 3rd when we get sworn in. But I'm looking forward to working with the new city council, the new school committee, and, as I said before in previous interviews and debates, I'm not looking for 9 councils to be lockstep with me or 6 school committee members being lockstep, but we're going to have a respectful deliberations and debates on the issues. And in the end, whatever the decision is, we all pushing in the same direction.
So you're speaking so professionally and so well and so much like a leader and a business person perhaps, and I'm going to ask the soft, touchy-feely question, okay? So how about healing? I feel as if, you were saying that the campaign went pretty well, but there were definitely some difficult moments, and it felt, if watching it from our seats, it felt like there was a lot of divisiveness. And a lot of that is the residue of the pandemic and people being exhausted and hurt, and a lot of the turmoil in City Hall. So how do you begin to address that as the mayor?
Well, like I said throughout the campaign, I want to return a sense of professionalism, set a tone of mutual respect, and I've also said during the campaign, I know there were people running for other seats who didn't support me. They're going to be treated the same as the people I knew who did support me. And that's how it should be. We back to what I said earlier, our goal is for that end customer, the resident. So it doesn't matter whose side you were on. January 3rd is a new day, and we're going to focus on what we have to do. My phone is blowing up here with text.
I bet, yeah.
Anyway, but so that's the thing, is I want people to be very clear. I'm not going to hold any grudges against anybody. We're all in this together. It sounds so cliche, but that's the fact. And we have to make sure we are working with respect for one another. Let's deliberate the issues, let's debate, let's disagree. But in the end, we're all trying to make Gloucester a better place.
And 3 people ran campaigns in this election season with saying that the people's voices were not being heard. So that was 3 candidates, and one of them just got elected. So how do you respond to that as a new mayor?
Well, that's the perception, is that they weren't heard. I want to do everything I can to make sure moving forward we do a better job, so that's not how they feel. And that's all I can say, is I want to make sure we are more transparent, more collaborative, and more efficient. And that's what we're going to do. That's going to be the directive from me. I'm going to do it, I'm going to live it, and I expect those subordinates to do the same. It's that simple.
Yeah. So Greg, not to get too touchy, but a big part of your campaign was resetting.
Yes.
We want to reset things. So now that they have been reset, what do you say to folks who maybe wanted to hear more platform messaging or on specific topics now? How do you address them?
Right. Well, I feel we did address a lot of it through the debates, the interviews, and through my website. It's just a matter of, I'll talk to the people. I'm happy. When I was called, I called over 1,000 people, knocked on over 1,000 doors. I gave them my cell phone number, and several called me to ask questions. Even today, standing outside of the different polling places, people were coming up to me asking specific questions about specific issues, and I was offering, an honest opinion of how I felt and what my vision was for the city. So I'm happy to talk to anybody. But we've got a lot of work to do between now and being sworn in, and I just want to make our city a better place tomorrow than it is today.
So will you come on and talk on our show about some other more concrete issues that we'd love to get into?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that would be great.
Greg, so one thing that stood out to me throughout your campaign was the confidence that your campaign team had literally from day one. So where did that confidence come from?
Well, I think they were confident in the message until those results were phoned into me and then literally handed to me as semi-official. There was always the possibility somewhere in the back of my mind that I was going to lose. So it wasn't overconfident. It was confident in the message, confidence in the message, and confidence that we were doing everything we can, doing to the best of our abilities, to get the message out there. And we hoped it would pay off, and it appears that it has.
So where's the party tonight?
We'll be at the drum corps, the Gloucester Fraternity Club.
Oh, very nice.
My old neighborhood.
Yeah, perfect. Could you spend some more time with us, or do you need to run?
I've got a room full of people waiting for me.
Yeah,
great.
that's why I was shoving him off, because
Okay.
I felt like you needed to get going. But we'd love to talk to you about some real hardcore issues.
Oh, absolutely.
So that would be great to have you
Yeah,
again.
how does Mayor-elect Greg Verga sound?
Strange.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Really.
Thanks for spending time with us. Yeah, congratulations once again, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Okay,
Take care. Okay, that is Gregory Verga. He is the mayor-elect for the city of Gloucester. Once again, defeating incumbent Savthur Mayo Taken, 59 to 41%, thereabouts. He had a total of 5,829 votes to 4,047 votes. I believe we're going to be speaking with the new ward councilor for Ward 2, Tracy O'Neill, who won by 3 votes. So, and again, these are unofficial results. We still have to deal with overseas ballots and write-ins, but as of this moment, Tracy O'Neill has been elected as the Ward 2 councilor, and she is about to step on stage and join us here too. We want to mention real quickly your councilors at large: Jason Groh, Jamie O'Hara, the incumbent, Tony Gross, Jeff Worthley, and school committee, Sam Verga Watson, Kathleen Clancy, Laura Veason, Bill Melvin, and Keith Minio. Melissa Texera Prince is also in there, and she has withdrawn, and so that's probably good news for Thomas Stein, and Richard Roberts is there as well. So, okay, all right.
Tracy.
Tracy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How do
Thank
you feel?
Speechless. I'm really humbled. I mean, I'm just ready to get to work to help the people in Ward 2.
So
I do want to thank Barry Pett, though. He was a gentleman all the way. He was very kind and very, all the way at the debate and throughout all the confusion. He was really nice. So.
Tracy, did you think it was going to be this tight? 3 votes.
I
That's like one door knock, that's one conversation at the store.
My knuckles are sore.
Yeah.
So Tracy, I have, in this pile of papers, I have a list of questions for Barry Pett. And my very first question for him is, are you going to fix Tracy O'Neill's sidewalk?
Hey, now look what you can do.
Okay, right, exactly. So tell us about that, because I actually mentioned you earlier saying that was my favorite moment in the campaign, when at your debate with him, at the chamber debate, when you at the very end said, listen, I did this because of my sidewalk, and no one would help me, and also that your request to Dole and Whittier to talk to them, and they wouldn't speak to you.
Yeah.
And that felt really so heartfelt and real. And so you want to talk about that?
Well, and that is why I ran. It was put up or shut up, I felt like my voice wasn't being heard, and I needed to do something. Somebody had to do something.
Yeah.
So, that's...
I called it your Erin Brockovich moment.
Oh, gee. Oh my gosh. Wow, that's an honor. Thank you. Yeah, and, that's how I feel. Is my sidewalk is crumbling, cars drive up over it, nobody cares. And I've been talking to people in the ward, and they feel the same way. And I say, what can I do to earn your vote? And they would say, sidewalks. Cars drive up over my sidewalk. They turn on my sidewalk all the time. And
so what do you think was happening with the council? Because we've actually asked people, including Greg Verga just now, do you feel as if the people are being heard? Because 3 candidates ran basically saying people are not being heard. So what do you think is going on?
I can't explain it. I don't know. I just know that I want to be heard. And I don't know how else to do it. I mean,
except
You
run
know,
for the office yourself.
I went to meetings pre-COVID. I went to Zoom meetings.
Do you think there's a sense of being overwhelmed? The council is overwhelmed?
Could be.
Yeah,
Could be.
yeah.
One thing I would like to see is in the Zoom meetings, if we could see the participants, because I can't tell if I'm the only one on the call or if there's 50 other people who care about the same issues and just don't speak up. You know, but
Right.
I'm only one voice, so but
Well,
I'm gonna give it my all. I am truly honored and humbled, and I'm just
so are you ready to talk about the new school yet?
not tonight.
Right.
Not tonight.
Yeah.
Well, look, your voice was heard, right?
Yeah.
And so moving forward, what are some of the things that you would like to do in Ward 2?
Simple things that, you know, as I'm walking the neighborhood, the sidewalks are all crumbled, so I have to go out into the street to get my steps in. A stop sign at the bottom of Church Street, a stop sign at the bottom of, oh my goodness, School Street. They
Right.
did put a stop sign there finally.
Yep.
But the crosswalk in front of Our Ladies, one side has a cutout, and the side that reaches the church is a curb. So it's not handicap accessible. So I watched a friend of mine go from the parking lot of Our Ladies way out into the middle of Prospect Street to get to the other side of Taylor Street. Simple things like that.
So I'll tell you something, Tracy. What sticks out to me is you ran the most granular campaign of any. Like we were talking about crosswalks and stop signs. Like, you know, these are the issues neighborhoods face. They sound
Exactly.
simplistic, but they're not.
And they're really meaningful.
Yeah,
Right.
it means a lot to us, and you know, I care. I really care that, you know, people are gonna get run over. I care about that. Please don't do that. You know?
So you gonna be running around with the kettlebells over your head tonight, up and down Front Street, or what?
Oh no, I'm gonna go to bed. I might get a drink. I might get a drink, but I'm exhausted. I'm
Yeah,
really,
you must
really,
be, yeah.
really. I worked hard. I put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I am truly, truly humbled
Well, you were
and
heard.
grateful.
You were heard. Yeah.
And now the real work begins.
I know.
Right.
You thought this was hard.
Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's time to dig in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
And it's one of the busiest wards, right? There's a lot happening there. So
Well, right. So I got in the race because I need a sidewalk. Oh wait, wait a minute, right?
You got all the sidewalks
Right,
you
now.
might have a
The
cruise
water-
ship in your back
Right,
front
the
yard.
waterfront is in
The
Ward 2. I'm
that's-
like, oh.
Exactly.
Whoopsie daisy.
Oh, that.
I see 4 too. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you've got a lot.
I've listened to a lot of meetings and I've done some research, so I'm ready to do more.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's great.
Great
That's
stuff.
great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Tracy, congratulations.
Thank you.
Again, a 3-vote win, and you are the new ward counselor
Wow.
for Ward 2. So thanks for spending some time with us. Have that drink, get a little rest,
Yeah.
and then
And come back and talk to us on Cape Ann today.
Okay.
Once you've
Okay.
had a few months under your belt.
Okay,
Okay.
terrific. Thank you very
Great.
much.
congratulations,
Thank you.
Trace.
Thanks, Kory.
Congratulations.
Okay,
Bye.
have
Take
a
care.
good night. Again, that is Councilor-elect,
Should I
Ward
go?
2 Councilor-elect Tracy
Tracy
O'Neill.
O'Neill.
You're good, Trace.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Again, defeating incumbent Barry Pett, 640 votes to 637.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Amazing. This is such a dynamic race from the beginning to the end.
And we should,
Or
we
election.
do have to say, there are write-ins, there are overseas ballots coming in. The absolute official tally does not come for some time, but that's 100% of the precinct reporting.
Right,
So-
and the tightest race is the O'Neill-Pett race, right?
Yes, so let's recap if you're just tuning in. Where have you been? We have a new mayor elected as Gregory Verga. He defeats incumbent Safathri Mayor Taken, 59 to 41%, thereabouts. Councilors at large, Jason Groh, Jamie O'Hara, Tony Gross, and Jeff Worthley just edging out Peter Canavo. So Grow, O'Hara, Gross, and Worthley. Ward 1 Councilor Scott Memhard ran uncontested. Ward 2, we just spoke with Tracy O'Neill, a narrow victory over incumbent Barry Pett. Ward 3, Adam Orlando did receive a little more than a third of the vote. However, we had 2 writing candidates, Frank Marjota and Bob Wynot. They received 823 votes. We do not know what that final tally is, though, folks, so stay
But there's
tuned.
potential for 30%.
Absolutely.
One of them winning 30%.
Right. Ward 4 Councilor Val Gilman was reelected. She ran unopposed, as was Ward 5 Councilor Sean Nolan. And for school committee, Sam Verga Watson, Kathleen Clancy, Laura Vason, Bill Melvin, Melissa Texera Prince, who withdrew, also was elected. She will have to refuse that and refuse the oath. Keith Minio was elected. And then just behind him, Thomas Stein, followed by Richard Roberts. So we'll see how that plays out. I believe we're going to speak with Kathleen Clancy now from the school committee. Yeah, longtime school committee member. Come on up, Kathleen. And congratulations. If you're tuning in, I'm Kory Curcuru. She is Heather Atwood. This is K-Pan Today, coming at you live from the Kairos Auditorium at City Hall.
Hi, how are you?
Sharing in the Gloucester municipal election results. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, Kory. How
Congratulations.
you doing? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Another
Jeez.
term on school committee. Good job.
Yes, yes, yes.
What a night, huh?
What a night.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I guess at first blush, Kathleen, I just want your reaction to the results for school committee with a lot of new faces this time around.
A lot of new faces this time, yes. We're going to lose a lot of experience with Jonathan and Joel, stepping off, and Melissa, if she chooses not to, take the spot that
accept
she's
the
earned.
results, right. So there is still that option for her to...
Yeah, I believe there is,
Wow,
yes.
okay.
Yeah,
Is that a possibility, do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, but a lot of new faces, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what has that been like in the past? Because you've been with the committee for a long time now, to start to work with newbies and get them acclimated to how the committee works.
Well, there hasn't really been that much. There's been years where there's maybe one new person, and they seem to take time to get up to speed. The past year there were 2 new people on the committee, and it does take a bit to learn kind of the rules and what our role is and how it works. A lot of times people think they're going to come in and go into the classroom, but that's not our job. Our job is not education. Our job is policy and budget, overseeing the superintendent. So it does take a bit to get people to understand what's in our purview versus what is an operational aspect of the school district.
Now we also want to mention that the 7th school committee member is actually the mayor, and you'll be
Yes.
working now with
Yep.
Greg Verga, who was on school committee in years past.
Right.
So how do you anticipate that relationship working out?
He'll know what to do for sure. Yeah.
Right,
I think it'll be very collaborative because he understands what the schools need. So that's good that he'll have some background.
Yeah.
Did you get to know each other at all during the good debates? Because you had a number of debates.
We had 2
right?
debates,
Okay.
and there's really not a lot of time ahead of the debates or after. So there's, it's a very awkward time. There's not a lot of social time to be able to get to know new people. I do know Bill Melvin from Little League, so of course I had a lot of history. He's coached my son a little bit, so I know him personally. So he was always, somebody that I have a history with. Yeah.
So you were really learning from their answers, their responses in the debates, who these people were.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like you at the same
Right,
time. At
exactly.
the same time.
In real time.
Yeah.
So Kathleen, now, of course, the school district's still dealing with the pandemic. Can you just touch upon how that is working out for students the second time around, essentially?
I think it's working. It's definitely, a big increase from last year, I think, in terms of how students are able to be at school, and I think they're outside more, so there's, without masks outside, so I think there's some normalcy to that. I think there's, because it's a full school day instead of kind of hybrid for a chunk of the day, a big chunk of the day, and then home. Now they've got the whole day, so they've got that social aspect of lunch and recess, which they did not have last year. So I think that's benefiting people really, a ton. And the high school just had their senior semi-formal last night, so there's some normalcy for them too. They didn't have their sophomore dance, they had nothing as juniors. Senior year, even though they have to wear masks when they, go to the dance.
Yeah.
All the pictures were taken outside, and the kids could not have been more glowing and happy. So everybody's making the best of it.
Yeah.
So something that came up, and I would just love to catch you right now and ask you about it. It came up quite a bit in the debates. Is the issue of absenteeism? There
Yes.
seems to be a lot of concern about that.
Yes, there is. There is. And we definitely know as a community we need to kind of do some work both as a district but also as a community to kind of highlight why school should be more interesting, fun, and necessary. I think everybody needs to kind of say to people, your child needs to really be in school if they're going to learn. I know when my son was in elementary school, there was a big push on being tardy to school.
Right, right.
And the principal talked to us about, imagine being 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 and you're late and class has begun and now you're that kid walking in. So I think appealing to parents as to how it impacts the child and put them in their shoes, just...
So we're not just talking about kids who are skipping school.
No.
We're talking about kids who are staying home for different, or staying away for different reasons.
Yeah, exactly. So you need things more engaging. You need reasons for them to be there. That either it's a teacher or a class or an after school. You can't do after school if you're not there during school. So I think it's a very complicated thing, and the district has some help. Coming in, and it's definitely a focus and one of the priorities.
Well,
We know it's all part of it.
Yeah.
Every 2 years, you're one of the most popular candidates for school
thanks,
committees.
Ed.
Do you have a word for your constituents before we go?
Oh, well, thank you so much for recognizing the work the school district and the committee has been doing. It takes 7 of us with 7 different opinions to make it all happen. We've had great superintendents since I've been there that really know education. So hopefully people get behind our schools and get behind our kids and show up and applaud when they do things and come out for a game even if you don't have a kid there. It's nice to have people in the stands, and it's nice to have all ages in the community supporting our kids because they deserve every ounce of recognition they get.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, and thank you for your service once again.
Thank
2
you.
more years.
Yeah,
of
2 more
school
years.
committee.
Yeah.
So again, congratulations,
All right.
Kathleen. Thanks for spending
Thank you
some
so
time with
much.
us tonight.
Thank
Come
you.
back on Cape Ann today and talk to us.
You got it.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Okay,
You let me
thank
know.
you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, folks, that is Kathleen Clancy, and she is back on school committee for another 2 years. She's been there for a long time, so yeah, great resume, and the great run continues. Okay, now joining us is Val Gilman. She is your Ward 4 counselor. It was a tough one, Val. Did you sweat that out tonight?
Yeah, you had a hard time.
I was up all day just waiting for the results.
So you seem to have one of the safer situations in this whole election process, right? Up there in Ward 4, worrying about the quarries and the beaches. And
I just kept working.
Yeah.
It really is nice being unopposed because I was able to have ward meetings and keep working on my projects and ordinances and focus on special council permits without interference. So it was okay. I'm grateful that my ward had confidence in me. So
yeah.
So, and Val, a lot of turnover tonight. Your reaction to the election results?
So, I mean, a lot of openings on the city council. I knew that was going to happen. We're losing some strong people. Melissa Cox, seasoned, Steve LeBlanc, seasoned, John McCarthy, Jen Holgram. They've decided not to return, so that is a loss. There's a lot of institutional knowledge there, and we're all going to have to pick it up and really get behind our city charter and start being really strong with governance. And that's where we have to be. We have to be a strong legislative branch of government. I'm comfortable with Greg Verga. I wish Mayor Safathia so much good luck because she's done wonderful things for our city. I've worked for Greg when we were on the school committee, my first term. We went through the teen pregnancy issue together. I know how he works. He's a good listener. So I'm comfortable with that, but there's going to be a lot of changes in terms of just how we work together and things like that, but I'm looking forward to it, and I just want to hit the ground running on January 1st. So.
Now, Val, we spoke, I think, in the springtime with you, and we asked you about there may be a lack of continuity in the council moving forward as we
Yeah.
as we sort of careen towards Gloucester's 400th anniversary.
Yeah.
So how are you going to help the other council members acclimate and to work together?
So that's a really great question. So governance is so important. Last year, or 2 years ago, we had a really strong governance meeting in January, and then COVID came. And governance meetings are different when you're on Zoom, and we didn't continue them after that. So I think trying to get back in live meetings so we can actually have these conversations. There are going to be a lot of newbies that are going to have to be learning, and we're just going to have to make sure that we cover all the different facets of what's behind being a city councilor, and there's a lot. I mean, I was just talking to Tracy, and I gave her some homework. You know, it's where to go on the website, take a look at this and that, and I've been giving, you know, her just some coaching of the things that she needs to start looking into. Of course, I think there's going to be a recount because Barry only lost by 3 votes,
Right.
which he has a right to do, and I think he's
And we're
going to
still
be filing
awaiting
for that.
overseas ballots, et cetera, over the next few days as well.
Yeah.
So interesting.
So we were just told tonight that the state requires new school committee members to go through a course to learn
Yes,
how to be on
I've
the
been
school
through that before.
Right.
It's called charting the course, I think, yeah.
And then I thought Jeff Worthley had said that he started a new city councilor orientation program years ago.
We have to, within a certain amount of time per the charter, be able to go and have a session with all city councilors, particularly new ones, and there are requirements. I think it's 4 months of minutes you've got to give them and make sure that they've reviewed it. And we have a pretty comprehensive session that we've put together in VRS City Clerk. So I've attended that. This is my 4th term, so I've attended that every term.
Okay.
And it's helpful because we learn from each other, and as you become more seasoned, you have more detailed questions to ask. And you know, that's all really important. That's part of institutional knowledge. You get better and smarter, and you start asking better questions. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of work, though, just with a whole new team. But you know, Jason is seasoned.
Exactly.
Tony's had many years on the school committee. He understands the city. Jeff Worthy's been on the team as well, and Jamie, obviously, this is his 4th term. So, and we'll have to wait to see what's going to happen in Ward 3, and I'm looking closely at that. I've met both Bob Wynot and Frank. Margiotta, yeah. And
Bob Wynot certainly has experience.
He does, and Frank is eager to learn, so we'll have to see what the results are there and then take it from there. But, you know, my feeling is all governance. It's all about learning. It's about teaching. It's about being prepared for meetings, being prepared by reading your packets, and
That's what
those are
Steve
the things.
Leblanc was saying
Those are
also.
the things
Yeah,
that we have to do.
Right, and knowing the charter, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, one of the things that I would do, and I'll suggest that we do it in this upcoming term, is every standing committee takes their section of the charter and they analyze it and they take a look at what we do and what we need to do better. And when we need to do something better, we need to start setting up some timetables and make it part of our operating principles, the things that we have to do. And we start holding ourselves accountable, because we have to be a stronger legislative branch of government. And, you know, I think I'm ready for it. That's why I ran again.
Yeah.
And it's important to me.
Yeah, Val, we thank you for your time and service. It says something that you run unopposed.
Thank
every
you.
couple of years or
Lot,
so, you
yes,
know, so
exactly.
you apparently you're listening to your constituents
you.
in Ward 4. So please join us again soon
I
to tell us
will.
all the latest in Bayview and Annisquam and Lanesville.
I would love to.
Yeah,
I love
thank
it.
you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night. That is
Take
Ward
care.
4 Councilor-elect Val Gilman.
Thank you for your coverage.
See you in
Thank you so
Gloucester.
much. All right, and again, it is a big night here for the city of Gloucester. You're watching municipal election coverage. Greg Verga is going to be your new mayor. We also have a new councilor at large. He is Tony Gross, and he is going to join us right now. How are you, Mr. Gross?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How's it feel?
a little surreal at the moment. You know, it's sinking in.
How about the whole evening?
Well, you know, it's funny. I was out picking up all my signs and kept getting these texts. Congratulations, congratulations. I'm like, what are you talking about? Things aren't in yet. So I called into City Hall. No, we don't have anything on the board here yet. It's on the city's website.
Yeah, things happen fast.
Yeah.
So then we had this. So then we came rushing back here. So
Yeah.
not rushing, driving at the speed limit. So.
So Tony, why did you decide to run this time around for at-large?
Well, because the amount of vacancies that were created sort of prompted me to get in. I've served 13 years on the school committee and 12 years on the waterways board, 9 years as chair. So from both those positions, I have a very vast amount of experience working within the city, and also I was on the last charter review committee. So I know.
So you know the charter.
I know the charter.
Yeah.
I know all the city departments. I know most of the city department heads. I've worked with all of them. I've worked with our state and federal delegations and worked with the administration quite well. And, we also did a total reorganization of the Harbor Master Department. And that's one of the things that city councilors do. And we did it ourselves at the Waterways Board. So I just felt that it was a good idea to step up. I've always done a lot of public service. Was raised in a family. My mother, I just found her card when she ran for city council in the early 70s. The other day, I posted it on Facebook the other day. Yeah, and she served several years on the school committee and Board of Health.
So you had a wonderful quote in one of these debates where you were asked, what will you do as soon as you get elected? And you said the first thing you do is what's urgent, and then you take care of the emergencies, and then you do long-term
It's emergency,
planning.
urgent, and then long-term.
Oh, I got it wrong. Sorry.
Yeah.
Emergency, urgent, and long-term.
Yeah.
So what's the emergency right now?
I don't know. I'm not there yet.
Do you have a guess?
I don't see any sort of Damascles hanging over our heads right now.
Well, that's good. That's good news, right?
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is. I mean, the city's been, been doing okay as far as its governance goes. So there's not, there's a lot of many challenges that keep coming. Will always come. As times are changing. We have to evolve. You have I'm on the Municipal Harbor Plan Committee. I mean, I think we need to figure out what we're doing down there. Who are we? Let's do our business or get off the pot. We got to figure this out. So I think that's one of the ones that needs to be, in all fairness, to everyone. The fishermen need to have affordable dockage. We need the infrastructure for the fishermen. It's a vital piece of not just our heritage and identity. It's a vital piece of our economy. So we really need to preserve what's needed, and need to work very hard to do that.
So I actually have a couple of specific questions, because you talked about bringing more fish processing into the harbor. How many fish processors do we have now?
Well, we have Intershell that cuts fish. I think there's a couple of small fish houses. A lot. You have the fresh catch that goes out of here, but that's not really a whole lot, compared to what I was used to seeing when I was, a young man. The millions of pounds a week that went through here. So, and I think Fisherman's Wharf over there, the Gigalonis are, they're doing. I think there's some processing there, but we really don't have the type of processing that needs to be done. Everything's getting trucked out.
Right.
There's fish coming over the wharf, but it's not leaving. So we need to figure out, how do we get the processors here, and how do we get the labor force, because we've lost that.
Right.
We've lost that skilled labor set.
Right.
Those
So
guys.
you're on the Waterways Board and the Municipal Harbor Plan?
I'm the representative of the Waterways Board on the Municipal Harbor Plan.
Oh, okay. All right.
Which that'll all change now. I'm a city councilor. I might be, who knows who the council president is, but I would hope they would appoint me as the liaison to the Waterways Board. And John Mccarthy is the city council representative on the Municipal Harbor Plan, so who knows what'll happen there. I can't imagine that they'll change all of that, but we've got a new administration coming in. All these are mayoral appointments.
Right, right.
So lastly, Tony, a message for your constituents tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the support and the love. I was rather distracted. I've been out in Greenfield rehabbing a house for one of my kids, so I've been out there 4 out of 5 days a week, so since July. So it's I've been a little distracted. So I thank them for being patient with me. Yeah, and it was really I worked the sidewalk bazaar and the block parties, and that was a real thrill to be out there with and talking to people. I really enjoyed that.
And how about the forums and the debates? Did you enjoy that?
Not so much. I would have really preferred to not just have. I thought some of them were a little too short. 90 seconds to answer a complex question, multi-layered complex question is a little difficult. And I thought that maybe there should have been a little bit more interaction, but that sometimes is difficult too.
Well, there's plenty of time to interact now.
Not really. They're not really debates. They're just question and answer periods.
Well, Tony, congratulations.
Well, thank you very
again,
much.
And we look forward to your servicing the city in another capacity.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and we hope to catch up sometime soon down the road.
Sounds
Come back
good.
and talk to us.
All right.
Congratulations.
Bye-bye.
That is Tony Gross. He is at-large councilor-elect for the city of Gloucester, and he amassed over 4,100 votes tonight, too, and finished third behind Grow and Jamie O'Hara. Jeff Worthley is also an at-large electee, and he is about to join us now. Do you need to catch up? No? Okay, this is Jeffrey Worthley.
You can call me Jeff. Hello,
Hey, Jeff.
everybody.
How are you? Congratulations.
Kory, thank you. Is it Heather?
Yes, I'm Heather.
Yeah.
I've seen
Great
you on
to meet
TV.
you.
Nice meeting you as well.
Yeah.
And congratulations.
Thank you. I want to, if I could for a moment, thank
Sure.
my parents, mom and dad, and I really want to do a great shout out to my 2 kids, Jude and Lila, 12 years old, 11 years old, and they literally, I call them my co-campaign managers because they wanted to go door to door. One more door, Daddy, one more door. And they put signs up with me, and they really did a fantastic job. So I owe it to them. And I had a lot of people that helped, but my kids helped the most. So thank you to that, Jude and Lila.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go Jude and
So,
Lila.
Jeff, your reaction to the results? It's been a big night for the city of Gloucester. A lot of change, a lot of new faces, and you just got in there.
I did. First of all, I want to thank all the candidates. Should I be talking, looking at you guys? Okay.
Very
Right.
thoughts,
So I
yeah.
want to be thankful to all the candidates, even the ones that lost. Okay. Peter Canava was a good man, and he did a fantastic job. I think he represented himself very well, and his family, and all of his supporters. And Carl McKay, we got close during the campaign, and I think he still has some fantastic ideas, and I encourage him, and I encourage Robin Hubbard too, to bring their ideas forward. If they don't have a vote at the table, but they still have a voice at the table, and I think that's really important. I also feel my heart goes out to Favazza, good, bad, or indifferent, however you feel about her, she's always had her heart in the right place, trying her best for the city of Gloucester. So for Favazza and her supporters, my heart goes out to you. And then to Greg and his group and his fans and his family, they worked really, really hard, and they earned the win. So that's exciting. There is going to be a lot of change. I come into this as the the youngest candidate on the city council, youngest city council, actually, 44 years old. But I have 4 years experience on the council. It's old, from 16 years ago, but I know how to get things done still. I know all the players. I know how to make, I'm sorry about my mask falling off.
Okay.
That's okay.
We're dealing with it, too.
Yeah, I know how to make a motion. I know Robert's Rules of Order. I know all the boards and commissions and the zoning ordinances. So I feel like I'm not coming in so green that I don't know, who's who and what's what. So I understand the process, and I want to congratulate the people who did win in our race at large city council. We had a lot of good choices, and I think that the city did well tonight. Did you have a specific question about the campaign or anything?
Well, I just feel like what are sort of those hot button issues, those big ticket items that you want to take head on?
So I think the housing issue in Gloucester is real and it's serious. It's not solved just by building more houses. I think that's part of the equation. I think it's also to work toward bringing the kind of industry and jobs base that gives people the incomes they can afford to pay for the houses that are in Gloucester. And what goes up comes down. There will be a correction at some point. But right now, it is a very serious issue that people in Gloucester, young and old, can't afford to stay here. And we can't afford to lose those people because they contribute in so many ways. And I'm one of them. I live downtown practically, Riverdale areas where I grew up, and it's not easy. So that's one of the things. I think the harbor is changing. It will never be a time when we have 600 boats and 600 families operating on our harbor fishing. Okay, it doesn't mean the fishing industry is dead. In fact, the businesses that are doing it are thriving. But there is a lot of space. And we need to work with the business owners and everyone else in the community that says they think they have a stake in the game. We all have to come together and say, what do we want to be? What do we want to be when we grow up? And start working towards that. And then the last thing is, there's, I don't know, you know better than I do, how many new faces on the council. Ward 2, Ward 3, and 3 at large. So that makes 5 new councilors,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I hope to be a steady hand. I think I have a steady hand. You know, have a hand on the wheel, make sure we're going in the right direction, and you're not going to see any of the hostility between the mayor's office and the council, not from me, and I don't think you'll see that from the council any longer. So I'm looking forward to making a difference, but it's a hard job. Anybody who wants to run, I encourage you, but it is work.
Yeah.
It's a real
Okay,
job.
so I keep quoting you because you talked about starting the new city councilor orientation program. So is that a thing?
No, I was asked to do it. I was asked by a candidate who had won, Jamie O'Hara, if I could help the people that won the following election to do a new council orientation. It really, the charter calls for the existing council president, so that would be Steve Leblanc, and he won't be the council president next year because he didn't run, and he's not a city councilor come January, to teach the incoming councilors. But that's hard to do because, you know, Steve's going to do his job all the way through December, but he's not going to be there in January. So I don't know that it's a current council that does it, but I know that Ab Kambadi took me under his wing. Tremendous heart and a wonderful mind. And I don't know if you know Ab or knew
I remember
Ab.
Ab, yeah.
And he had such a great brain and logical thinking, and he walked through process without trying to put a hand on the weight, on the scale. He didn't say, vote this way, Jeff. He'd say, if you vote this way, this is the consequence. If you vote this way, here's the alternative. And I learned so much from him, and I feel like it's a question of paying it forward to help the newer councilors find their way. It can be, you know, business for city council starts January 1st, and it doesn't stop for people, you know, you have to learn. It takes 6 months to really know the ins and outs of how to be a city councilor. That's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
So, and with a new mayor too, right? So sort of learning how he's going to interact with the council is going to be a challenge for everybody.
Well, and lastly, Jeff, a message to the constituents.
So when you win a race for city council or mayor or anything, you represent everybody, not just the people that voted for you. And so I want to thank people who voted for me, but I want to thank people that didn't because they contributed to the process, and I hope to earn your vote in time. But to stay involved, to be involved, come to the meetings, whether they're Zoom meetings or in-person meetings, be involved because your voice matters. And I think that's the message that needs to be heard. Gloucester spoke tonight loudly and clearly, and I think it's important that we continue to listen.
Well said.
Thank you.
Jeff, congratulations.
Thank you, Kory.
And we look forward to chatting with you in the future,
I'm sure we'll
of
see
course.
both of you a lot.
Yeah, and thank you for your upcoming service and your service in the past as well.
I appreciate that very much.
Take care. Have a great
You
night.
too. Good night.
Okay, that is at-large Councilor-elect Jeff Worthley. And so congratulations to him as he returns to city government after a long absence. So pretty impressive victory there too.
Yeah.
And now, of course, now we're going to introduce the third anchor to Cape Ann today. State Senate Minority Leader, Senator Bruce Carr. How are you, Bruce?
I'm doing great, Kory. It's nice to be here so we have all 3 anchors at the same time.
I almost want to yell Norm every time you walk into the Cape Ann Today set.
Well, it's great to see you both, and I want to compliment you on tonight's broadcast. I know that there were a lot of different components to it, from the pre-records to the live interviews to getting information out.
He watched.
Really a first-class production, so congratulations to both of you. But I am wondering, usually we call it Cape Ann Today. Are we now into Cape Ann Tonight?
Yeah, right.
We might be.
And very
Maybe
soon,
with the early results
Cape Ann
tonight, we
tomorrow.
thought.
well, I'm wondering if we're going to have Cape Ann Late Night.
Right, exactly.
Cape Ann After Dark?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, the crowd is definitely thinning out there.
Well, it is, definitely, and I think folks have taken the sheet that our city clerk provided, and they've gone home to digest it a little bit and think about all the different dimensions to this election, and there were a lot. So I think there's a lot of reflection happening.
So, Bruce, what is your initial reaction to the results tonight, especially at the position for mayor?
Well, you know, we knew that this was going to be a highly competitive race right from the start. Obviously, we saw Greg Verga with a strong performance in the primary, but we also know that a primary is not always indicative of a final result. And so I think that, you know, pundits would say, okay, we're going to see another strong performance by Greg in the final election. That's what we saw tonight. But, you know, Safathia is someone that you never count out of anything. And so to me, tonight was something that needed to be watched closely, that nothing was a given. And that's my reaction. But I also think that it's very significant that we had very robust voter turnout and strong participation. Is it what we'd like to have? No, I think we still can do better when we see numbers like this, and we need to do everything we can to get even greater voter participation. But the fact is, tonight was relatively good, and I think that's something that we can all appreciate, regardless of what perspective we come to this with.
Yeah, we do want to say it was the voter turnout was just a hair over 45% tonight, so just about 10,000 votes in total cast. And you talk about, I know it's cliche, but every vote counts. You look at this Ward 3 race, a separation by 3 votes. Oh, Ward 2, sorry.
There's no doubt about it. You know, and I was involved in some races years ago when I was much younger in Ward 5, where we saw a couple of races that were very, very close. I believe one was decided by 9 votes.
Wow.
You know, so it is not something that is remote when we say every vote counts. We see consistent examples of how every vote counts. So it's not something that is just hyperbole. It's something that can be very, very real. And, you know, and the other thing is, regardless, you know, of what the margin might be, voter engagement is critically important. And everyone deserves a voice, and we need them to exercise that voice because, you know, sometimes even if the candidate that you support doesn't win, the message that that candidate has carried influences the future. And so in this democracy, as long as you participate, no one's left out.
Absolutely. So we understand you've already spoken to Greg Verga.
I have.
And how did that conversation go?
Well, you know, I've known Greg for a long time, and of course worked with him in his other stints in public office. And I congratulated Greg, and I said, you know, to me the most important thing now is that we pull together and remember the good of this city and the future of this city. There's a lot of work to do, and I indicated, you know, that I would be more than willing to work with him. I'm very eager to do that and continue to work with Favazza for the remainder of her term. And what we all need to be about right now is the future of our community. And every one of us has a stake in that, whether we won or lost tonight. So we need to go forward, and that was my message to Greg. And he indicated that he was also very willing to roll up his sleeves and get to work. And we talked a little bit about something that we had talked about recently, and that is ARPA funding. And, you know, as we talked about a little bit on the last episode of Cape Ann Today that I was on, we are going to spend in the next several days, and hopefully we'll get it done before Thanksgiving, roughly half of what we have in federal ARPA spending. That means that there will be another half that will get spent sometime in the new year. And so even as we contemplate what we're going to do right now with those bills, and Gloucester has sent us a priority list that Representative Ferranti and I are working on, we're going to get another shot at it as well. So my message to Greg was, think about what we may be able to do now, but also put it into context of what, when you're mayor, we may want to do in the future.
So are you saying that there will be more than the $23 million?
So not in terms of the city's ARPA funding. So the city got $23 million directly.
Right.
But as we talked about, the legislature is going to spend in a bill that's going to come out of our Ways and Means Committee very soon, about $3.5 billion. And that will be part of what the state got from the federal government and part of the fiscal year 2021 surplus. So we're going to spend about half of what we got from the federal government, meaning there'll be roughly half to be spent in another vehicle. And that's something that's very important to think about because these are funding opportunities that are very rare. And in fact, they are often have been called once in a lifetime because of their scope and magnitude. I don't think they'll necessarily be once in a lifetime because depending on what happens in Washington, we may see more infrastructure money flowing into the states and into the communities, but they are certainly rare opportunities that we need to take full advantage of.
Well, Bruce, so lastly, can you just sort of encapsulate the evening through your eyes on what happened here tonight? It's a big night for the city of Gloucester. It's a transitional phase for sure. A lot of new faces are happening. And just your thoughts on how you absorbed what occurred.
One thing I want to do, Kory, before we wrap is just say thank you to everyone who worked in the polls today. You know, we tend to take that for granted, but if we didn't have people giving of their time at each of the polling locations, we wouldn't have an election. And sometimes we overlook them, and I don't think we should. I personally was around today delivering trays of cookies and Hershey's Kisses to all of them, thinking that maybe just a little bit of sugar would help get them through the rest of the day. But so one thought is thank you to everyone from Joanne Sinos, our city clerk, right through the entire team that ran this election. That's very important. Second thought is we were reminded that people still want to engage in this community. They want to be vocal, they want to be heard, they want to have debates and things of that nature, many of which you broadcast, and also that there are still people willing to step up to the plate and be able to serve. You know, so it's very interesting that when we had a candidate in Ward 3 that withdrew, we had others that immediately stepped up to the plate. That is very significant in my mind, because public service, it's a noble thing to do, it's important. I would argue it's extremely gratifying and has its own rewards, but it also means a lot of sacrifice. And the fact that we had people willing to step up to the plate and run, I think is very significant, and it's something that should be reassuring for all of us as we think about this election day and this election night.
Well said. Well, we thank you for spending some time with us, and you are Cape Ann Today's greatest friend. You know that, right?
Well, you know, it's funny.
And we are yours.
Off here, I was saying to Eric how much I appreciate what this station does, what it does to keep the community together by keeping us informed when we can't get to things, but also what it means through the kind of shows that both of you produce that reminds us about what a special place it is that we live. And, you know, when you talk to folks who are artisans or local business people or elected officials, you really remind us that one of the greatest things about this place we call home are the people that populate it. So I want to say thanks to both of you, and I'm always happy to join you. I think it's great when we have all three of us.
Right?
I'm trying. Now that this election is out of the way, I should have a little more breathing room now.
Well, good.
Yeah, that was
good.
one heck of a summer. And we appreciate all the time you spend with us for Cape Ann today and keeping us informed.
We learn a lot from you, so thank you so much.
Well, I'm happy to do it again. Appreciate everything all of you do, and thank you for being able to come and share a few thoughts tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bruce.
Thank you both.
Okay, we appreciate it. That is State Senate Minority Leader Senator Bruce Tarr, joining us once again. And we thank you for your time and your service, Bruce, as always.
My pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you.
Great. So what a night, Heather, huh?
Yeah, it's nice that it's the three of us left here, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, so to recap this big evening here at City Hall, there is a new mayor-elect for the city of Gloucester. He is Greg Verga. He defeats incumbents of Father Mayor Taken, 59 to 41%. Councilors at large, your winners are Jason Groh, Jamie O'Hara, the incumbent, Tony Gross, and Jeff Worthley. Ward 1 Councilor Scott Memhard ran unopposed, and he won. Obviously. Ward 2, this was one of the bigger stories of the night, right? Tracy O'Neill edges Barry Pett by 3 votes. And so we'll sort of tell you why that's not officially official, but unofficially Tracy O'Neill is going to be your new Ward 2 councilor. In Ward 3, but there's still write-ins that are being hand counted as we speak. And so we know 823 votes were cast as write-ins. Frank Margiotta, Bob Wynot ran those campaigns. They need 30% of that vote, right? So it looks like about 400 or so votes, because Adam Orlando, who withdrew, received 436 votes tonight, and he is not obviously going to accept that nomination for the Ward 3 seat. So stay tuned on that. We hope we can get word on that.
Together they are 65%.
Right. So we'll just see how that played out. So interesting stuff there. Val Gilman was with us just a little while ago, and she is once again your Ward 4 councilor, as is Sean Nolan for Ward 5. They both ran unopposed. And school committee, Sam Verga Watson, Kathleen Clancy, and Laura Veason, the incumbents, are all returning, along with newcomers Bill Melvin and Keith Minio. Melissa Texera Prince also received enough votes to be a school committee member once again, but she has withdrawn. If she follows through with that withdrawal, it will become up to whether Thomas Stein or Richard Roberts goes in. That's a city council decision at that point.
Right.
From what we understand. So that is it. Pretty
Big
amazing
night.
stuff.
Whew.
Yeah. What do you think, Heather, huh?
There's some surprises there, and of course, no one knew what to think about the mayor's race at this point. We all came in here saying we just don't know. So, and I think we'll walk away really, as Senator Tarr said, we'll all be thinking about that sheet tonight.
Right.
So it's a very interesting race.
Yeah, so that does it for our coverage of the 2021 Gloucester municipal election. For all of us here at 1623, we want to thank you. We want to thank all the candidates who ran for this election season. For their participation. Of course, the poll workers, the constables, and the volunteers who helped make this election run. And of course, you, the voters, for doing your civic duty, participating. 10,000 votes were cast citywide. We also want to give a special thanks to Gloucester City Clerk Joanne Sinos and IT Director Ryan Knowles for helping us put this production together. And of course, we could not do this without our amazing crew on camera, David Lufkin, our floor manager, Alana Horn, our production manager, Becky Coyle, our technical director, Matt McMakin, our digital director, Kyle Davey, our executive director, Eric Archer, and a special thanks to two people who helped us, especially you and I, Heather, put all these notes together to help research for this event. Arinna McWilliam-Lopez and Maureen Aylward, thank you so much for your contributions. The next Cape Ann Today is going to be Friday, November 19th at the Open Door, just before Thanksgiving. We'll be live. I can also tell you, we confirmed tonight we're going to be at Cape Ann Friday, December 3rd, the Beauport Hotel Friday, December 10th, and Cape Ann Animalade Friday, December 17th.
Oh, it's going to be such a nice couple of months.
So Heather, it's always fun working with you.
I love working with you.
That was a
Kory.
great night tonight and a great night for the city of Gloucester. Congratulations once again to everyone who participated. We will see you next time on Cape Ann Today Live for 1623 Studios. I am Kory, she is Heather. Good night for now.
England Volkers is a global luxury lifestyle brand. Founded over 40 years ago overseas, headquartered in Hamburg, Germany, and they've established themselves here in Americas just 10 years ago. At England Volkers by the Sea, we are so proud to be that local provider of luxury real estate services here from our own headquarters right at Main Street in Gloucester. We celebrate our clients. It's our favorite thing to do. And we specialize in elevating that client experience for all of our buyers and sellers here on the North Shore. People aren't just buying a home with 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. They're buying a space for their life to unfold, and that's our very favorite thing to celebrate. We are proud to serve this Cape Ann community that we have been a part of for over 10 years, and that's why we support 1623 Studios, Cape Ann's Emmy-winning community media center, so that they can deliver essential local programming that is so important for all of us.